Welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. And thank you very much, Jalal. You're an inspiration to all of us. And I want to welcome everybody to the North American Corona Team teaching. In addition to the disclaimer, just like to mention that this is not designed for YouTube, as YouTube has put in new regulations. So if you're doing anything in that regard, you're on your own. And we are on our own in so many ways. There are so many comments that we want to make because it's been a wonderful day so far. And as I say, I want to welcome all of you to come here. Many times, and I don't know how many times you may have heard it, but well, I've got nothing else to do, so I may as well come here. So I'm glad you guys have nothing else to do, but we don't want to waste your time. We are, as far as I'm concerned, providing a very valuable service, because this is where science meets the soul of man for peace. And we say this all the time, so that it doesn't become a sentence or a presentation. This becomes ingrained. And as such, communities around the world who are coming together, joining together for the purpose of peace. And as difficult as it is, we have an indomitable spirit, and this has to come to the surface. And it's not that we can't, it's a matter of being aware. And so what we're trying to do here at the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute is bring you plasma science. Today we're talking about intermediate knowing, and the subject is the dream state. My name is Alexander, I'm from Canada. It is November the 14th, 2021. This is the Keshe Foundation North American Plasma Education Series. There has been some organization to the madness, and we started with basic teaching over a year ago, thanks to the urgings of the Brazilian community, and we're seeing the tremendous progress of the Brazilian community. I believe that they're at this point in time, and this has not been somewhere, and terminology was where it's at. And the reason for terminology is that every subject has its own lingo, and we have our own lingo, and we need to add to this lingo because there's been a lot of confusion. And this is not a commentary on whether or not it's done purposely, but generally speaking, it indicates a lack of education or a lack of understanding of that education. And so we review it all the time. And we went through basic teaching, intermediate teaching, and advanced teaching. In order to, we had to start somewhere to bridge, if you will, the over 3,000 hours of lectures that we have in the archives, the over thousands of hours that we've had together in the private classes, and the many classes that are going around the world. And despite the numbers that we have, which are extremely significant, there are millions more who have never heard of the Keshe Foundation for whatever reason. And so one of the ways that we could do this is obviously physically, with either the spoken word or the written word. And through the plasma dome, we will accelerate this. And we are seeing the fruits of that labor as well. So we've had to make some moves, and Mr. Keshe is racing on with the advanced technology. So how do we keep up? So we had to learn the basic teachings, take into account understanding what those teachings meant and seeing what direction they are pointing us. And so we went through basic understanding, intermediate understanding, and advanced understanding. And now we're trying to cross this bridge. And in order to cross this bridge into the plasma science, we have to understand where we're coming from and why we need to cross this bridge. Because this bridge has shown us our limitations. And so in the basic knowing, we have to know our limitations and why they are our limitations. And this is important for us because this gets thrown in our face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, continually. And this is something that I don't understand really, why this fearfulness. So if there's a fearfulness of it, that means it's someone is going to lose something. And when you look at the benefit for humanity, you really have to wonder what's going on. And so this discernment falls on our shoulders because we're the last men. And so today's subject is the dream state. And we want to see how does that relate to the plasma science. And this is about plasma science. And it all starts with Mr. Keshe's book #1, which talks about the universal order of creation of matter. And so many, as you can see on this planet, are either afraid to ask the question or have asked the question and not gotten the answer. We may not have the complete answer, or we may have the complete answer and don't understand the answer. But we are on the road to getting the answer. And that is so gratifying because that's what we need. In the book #2, The Structure of Light, it tells us how to get from here to there. Where is there and where is here? And is there here and we're there? And that's not double talk. That's just wondering which way are we going? And so with the origin of the universe, we find that we're actually going in both ways. It's a two-way street. And once we understand this as a two-way street, and we compare this to what we've been taught, and we see not only do we have to cross the bridge, but how many bridges do we have to cross? So we're on the verge of a new tomorrow. We are on the verge of a new tomorrow. What's the difference? Isn't tomorrow always new? Well, history has shown that the new tomorrow is just another tomorrow. We are talking about a new tomorrow, a new kind of tomorrow, where we understand the creation of the universe. It exists from energy, and the energy is always in motion. So if you want to stop the world and get off, open the door and have fun. But you see, we can't stop the world from turning. Energy is always in motion, but which way is it going? So therefore it has a charge when it's in motion. And when we're creating the matters, they come together. And we say in the plasma science that it has to do with matter, dark matter, and antimatter, and the convergence of these energy states. But when we have two plasmas, they interact and they create a dynamic energy state in between. And so we've seen that infinity loop, and we wonder where it came from and what it means. So with the plasma science, we understand that if the basic rule, the stronger feeds the weaker, what constitutes the stronger and what constitutes the weaker? And who decides on that? And if the stronger gives to the weaker, how come we're so preoccupied with the strongest, with being the strongest to dominate? In review, when we look at the terminology, this is also, please understand, This is for new teachers, mature teachers, and new students and mature students, because in the end, we're all students, and everyone we talk to becomes our student. And so we want to be coherent and clear and concise. We talk about the basic mechanical gravitational force fields. These represent energy and motion, and they go through various natural plasma states. So we ourselves are just bags of GANs, but we're very dynamic. We go through different geometries, and then we go through various dimensions. So one of the subjects we talk about is the monatomic structure. And then another subject we talk about is the gradient charge. And this invites a dynamism. And can we understand this dynamism? Well, why not? Look at this planet. I mean, let's face it, it was here before you were born. And so how did that happen? And so we see that energy is coming in, going out, going around, and sometimes going through. And maybe we're an energy pack and we've come in and we're going around. And as part of an energy pack, we have force fields of repulsion and attraction. We call it magnetical gravitational field forces. The repulsion is emission. So you emit what you are, you emit what you want. And the opposite, the attraction, you absorb what you want, you absorb what you need. And so there's a discrimination. And discrimination is not a bad word, it's just a matter to know, are you on the ground or are you in the sky? Are you in the gravitational aspect of the core of the earth, or are you in the magnetosphere of the core of the earth? And which direction are you going? And you have to determine that. And all that has to do with is susceptibility. And so what susceptibility means is that something is something. Nothing is nothing. Something has to be something, but it has to be something as opposed to being something else. So this is our constant questioning is, what is it? And so we produce the GANs, which is something, but there's a hole in my GANs. We created a rotating field, as you see on the left, and it matured to a big rotating field on the right, but there's a hole in the GANs. And so we wonder, well, there's nothing there. Well, when we think about our soul, we can't grab onto it. We can't vision it. We don't even know where it is. I wonder if it's in the hole. So when we look at, in plasma science, the principal matter, we've reviewed so many times that the PM takes our energy packs traveling through the universe, and when they come together, they create an interaction. And this interaction is common. It has to have a common denominator. And this common denominator, when it comes through, creates a force field. So because it's not the lowest common denominator, that means it's not the lowest force field. But we know that different force fields have different energies. So we see that the physical manifestation is the lowest energy force field. And our soul is among the highest energy force fields. Whichever force field you have, it's in a Magrav condition. And so that is the basis of creation. And part of the things that we create are dreams. And so these dreams tend to be in our background. Well, what is in the background? And what is in the foreground? And what is your point of view? So let's just add a few more terminologies and review them. We say transmission is the x-axis and it involves rotation. So that gets us from here to there along a plane. But transition is the y-axis, and it goes through the poles. So that means it cuts through these planes. And this cutting through a plane is the y-axis plane. And the combination of these two planes comes together in what we call transmutation, and that is being the z-axis. These are the three dimensions, and collectively they represent the field strength. And at the core of this field strength is the plasma. That is the gravitational core, and it is always seeking to position. And it has to position because it has to take into account something else. There has to be an interaction. We call that a dynamism. And that dynamism is representing dynamic plasma. The rules are the same. Energy in motion carries a charge, and it goes through various geometries. And these geometries pertain to our physicality, to our emotions, and our soul. And within this geometry, there are ranges. And so we can transcend from a lower energy to a higher energy and still remain within that range. When you go beyond that range, you are considered out of range. Just like if you are, say, too far away from your radio, you can't hear the music. But within the range, so we have capability of going through transformation. But we have to define this transformation because it involves a transcendence. It has to involve a transcendence because it also involves what we call the transmogrification. So in other words, a change in our physicality. And we as humans have limitations on being able to change our physicality, but we find that nature is always changing its physicality and its appearance. And so nature doesn't seem to have these limitations. See, these seem to be human limitations. And as humans, we now come to the point where we are not hesitant to speak about advanced breakthroughs in technology. We are talking about knowing by connection. So in other words, the PM ticks that are traveling through the universe are energy packs that are what we call in a pre-amino acid state. And because they're traveling, they're magnetical. They're seeking a position. And when we get into the Magrav condition, which involves the combination of the X, Y, and Z axis, in other words, the transmission, the transition, and the transmutation, it creates a gravitational field. And if it was to manifest in the physicality, then that would be the post-amino acid connection. And so there is a magnetical force, there's a gravitation in between, transition force. So when we look at how we transmute through the various ranges, we find that our soul now is gravitational, because it's from our viewpoint. And we've been taught from the Earth's viewpoint. So the point of view here, opportunity, is from either Earth-centric or from you-centric. We now have a new possibility, and that is space-centric. So when we're just talking about range transmutations, and let's just stay within our range here on this planet, because we're still in the physicality. And so whatever the rules we have in this physicality, we can discuss with our other. So we have gravitational state in the plasma condition, and we need to transform into a physical condition. But before we do that, we need to create a Magrav condition. So that transformation actually comes into our connection with the Earth's Magrav condition. That connection is inertia. So we have to transfer from our plasma state and combine with the Earth's physical state. So there's an in-between state. And the activity there is called inertia. Today, we're going to be talking about a dream state and see where that fits into the picture and how that relates. So there's another transformation, another transmutation, excuse me, and that has to do with transportation. And so the Earth for us is our transportation vehicle, except we have our own transportation vehicle within a transportation vehicle. In other words, we now have two transportation vehicles. Well, isn't that cool? So one is our physical body and one is our physical Earth. So there's a relationship between us being eucentric and being the Earth, which is Earth-centric. All right, so there's a relationship there. And so when we look at our learning, understanding, and knowing, we see, well, you know, we are having certain limitations. So how do we change these limitations? So there are independent variables. And it's interesting that we have these independent variables because we all are different. And this is a good thing because we have 7 billion souls on this planet and we are all independent. How did it happen when we're all the same? How come we're all independent? And so this is the kind of diversity that we have on this planet. This is a good thing. So when we look at our creation, have a transformation from the soul of the man to, let's say, our brain. And then we have to say into our body. And this happens because of the inertia that is reacted from the interaction of the field from the soul of the sun and the soul of the earth. And what's missing is trust. And this is an unfortunate byproduct of the society that we live in. Trust requires dependency. And how could you depend on undependability? Well, fortunately, the universe is dependable. And that's why when we talked about the GANs of connection, if we connect to the universe and see that it's well organized, and we see that energy can come from one side and to the other side, and that there is a positioning, there's a convergence, and then there's a divergence, and there's an interaction, and it's all well organized. So how come the whole universe is so well organized and we seem to be having problems? And it has to do with what we don't see in the universe is we don't see these chains. So I call them the chains of man because that's the way our atomic structure is facilitated. The atoms are linked together physically. And in science, in nature, we can see a simple caterpillar. It has individual sections, as you can clearly see, and each section seems to have legs, and but they all work together. And so really, when we look at unchaining man, we're looking into the monatomic structure where we can stay together, interact, and be linked, but not be chained. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the art of dreaming. So in the plasma science, we see that we have two systems. And so let's call that the soul of the man system. And the other system is the soul of the body system. And for someone who is clairvoyant, they can actually see the souls as they sleep. And so when you go to sleep, you generally go to sleep in a horizontal position. Animals are considered part of the horizontal community. Plants are considered part of the vertical community. So we walk vertically, but we sleep horizontally. And when we sleep horizontally, something happens. And so someone who is clairvoyant can see the souls leaving the body, but they're connected. And they call this connection the solar cord. And an interesting aspect of this connection is that it's springy. In other words, as the dream body leaves the earthly body, it stretches the spring. And when it's completed its work, the spring recoils and pulls it back. So we are able, for roughly a third of our day on Earth Day, to go into this dream state, and where the body is not doing much, apparently, but the body needs to sleep. So now we find out that the soul doesn't need to sleep. Okay, so this is good. You go to sleep and I'll carry on. And then when you're good and ready, I'll come back and we'll carry on together. So this is how the soul systems operate. And so this is now where we're at. We have soul systems operating with our physical systems. And we are now in the intermediate knowing where we have to cross this bridge, right? Because the physical knowledge is only so much. The physical knowledge is knowledge that we can confirm physically. And we have a strong desire to confirm our existence physically. But how do you confirm your knowledge spiritually? And how do you confirm your knowledge in the dream state when you can't grab onto it? So yeah, we have to cross the bridge, and this is the bridge of knowing. And I'm, like most people, going into uncharted waters, because this is not taught in conventional schools. So as was pointed out at the beginning, we're looking forward to setting up educational systems, institutions, or whatever you want to call it, around the world, so that everyone has access to this knowledge, because this is the universal knowledge. So if this is new for me, and if, as I'm running this lecture here, as I'm the leader, then you're following the leader, but I'm just a student. So now you're following the student. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to kind of sort it out. All right, and there are ways and means to sort it out. And this becomes a skill that we need to learn. And it all comes through knowing by connection. So let's sort it out. We have different domains. So we have an earth domain and we have a space domain. But we have a third domain, and that is your domain. And within your domain, you have an awakened state and a sleep state. We refer to this sometimes as your awareness. So this becomes your awareness domain. And with respect to your awareness, something that you can all relate to, you know that you have a conscious state and an unconscious state. So when we're awake, we kind of say, well, we're kind of conscious of what's going on. But when we go to sleep, then we're kind of unconscious. So, and this is kind of the same thing, if before you were born, you were unconscious, and after you die, you're going to be unconscious. So between being born and dying, that becomes your conscious state, except that 1/3 roughly of your conscious state, you are asleep. So literally you're going back into an unconscious state. So this unconscious state is our dream state. And so we like to measure our dream states. And so here's a good test. One of the ways we measure them is through brain waves. And we note that we have rapid eye movement, and it comes in cycles. But then there's another cycle that doesn't have rapid eye movement. So these cycles, we call them as brain waves, alpha, beta, delta, theta. But that's not what we're going to discuss, you see, because the moment you say brain waves, you're into the physical state. There you go. You've crossed the bridge of knowing. You know the difference between the physical reality and the plasma reality. Bingo. Now, what's interesting about these waves is that they go from shallow to deep sleep states. Okay, so there are different sleep states, but they base these sleep states on frequencies. So what's fascinating is that science admits to only having a little bit of knowledge. And you can see this on Wikipedia. This is, the gospel of knowledge. You can see that science admits it only has a little bit of knowledge about brainwaves. So, I think we all have a right to question, why does science pursue mind control and artificial intelligence when they've already admitted they have a little bit of knowledge? Well, I guess you could say they're pursuing more knowledge. But the question becomes, why are you doing it and who is doing it? And I've said before, why is the answer, not the question. Well, we talk about beta waves. Maybe let's talk about beta splendids. Just as an aside, some of you who are familiar with the fish hobby know about Siamese fighting fish. But what's unique about the Siamese fighting fish is that they have a special beauty. And the ones who have this special beauty, of course, they're all males. So before this presentation started, we honored a beautiful soul, Jalal. And so for all the women in the audience, you understand that in nature, man is the beautiful one. Woman is not. So, however, in the human world, the woman is the beauty. So there's something confusing here. And I think a lot of it has to do with as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so we think that the beta has very poor eyesight. And it must have very poor eyesight because its natural habitat is in rice paddies, which are extremely murky. So murky that, really, you can't even see the fin in front of you. But you need excellent eyesight because the beautiful male is trying to attract the female, right? But while it is doing that, it maintains a state of suspended animation. And this state of suspended animation is broken when a female approaches or when another beautiful male approaches. And so the beta wants to protect his territory. Why? So that he can allow the female in. So what the beta is doing in this state of suspended animation is pining for a female. So where is this state of suspended animation? Maybe the beta is dreaming. And so fish, you can't tell when fish are sleeping because they don't have eyelids to close their eyes like humans do. So one of the things we like to do about our dreams is we like to interpret our dreams. So we attach a meaning to these dreams. And because it's so difficult for us to understand this, that we relegate this interpretation to someone else, such as a fortune teller, or we get involved with crystal ball gazing. Well, the Keshe Foundation has a crystal ball, and you can gaze into the moon lamp here, and you can engage with the plasma fields that emanate from it. And you can do this in your wake state or in your sleep state. But you see, the thing about this dream interpretation is it's the wrong question to ask, you see, because it's your dream. And so your dream is your experience. So why would I be fascinated with your dream? Well, I am fascinated, like everybody else, with someone else's awakened state. Perhaps it's an artist, perhaps it's a musician, perhaps it's someone in the Keshe Foundation. So, but if you're not doing anything special, then why would I care? So I don't care about your awakened state. Let's say if I ask you, well, what did you do today? Well, I got up and then I went to the washroom. And then I got in my car and I went down the road to have a cup of coffee at the coffee shop. Okay, so do I want to waste my time interpreting that? Well, why did I bring that up? Because that is not my reality. That is not my life. That is their life. And that's what they want to do. And they do that for a certain reason. And I don't need to dissect that. And so this becomes an important point. Your dream is your dream. And so your interpretation is your interpretation. So why would you want to pass that off to someone else who really has no interest in your dream? So the only dream really that you're interested in is things that are in common. And so we all have a common dream, and that is peace. Is it peace on earth? Is it peace in our awake state? Maybe it's peace in our sleep state, in our dream state. Maybe it's in the earth domain. Maybe it's in the space domain. You need to interpret your own dream because you are the last man standing. And this is one of the first lessons that we learn in the plasma science. You are the last man standing. But that doesn't mean that you're alone, because you're not alone in your dream. And because you're not alone in your dream, you are not alone in your loneliness. Being the last man standing doesn't mean loneliness. Being the last man standing means being responsible for your own condition. And your dream is a facilitator for you to have an understanding of your own condition, right? So this is the benefit of remembering your dream. Remembering your dream helps you in your preparation and arrangement and resolutions in your life. The preparations are of your soul. The basic rule in plasma science is the higher strength feeds the weaker strength. Your soul is a higher strength. Your physical is the weaker. So first of all, we have to have a preparation of the soul. Second of all, we have to have a preparation of your physical reality. Well, preparation is always done in advance. Hence, when you go into the dream state, what you're doing is you're preparing for the future. You're taking what you've learned and preparing for the future. And how you do that is with the arrangement of other souls. And these other souls are preparing for their future. And because of the interdependence of the universe, all souls depend on each other. And because of the dynamic plasma fields that are associated with these souls and the interaction of these dynamic plasma fields, we're always looking for positioning. So now ask yourself the question, are you dreaming in color? Well, if you're dreaming in color, that means you're dreaming in your physicality. And if you remember your dream, then you're bringing your dream from your unconsciousness to your consciousness. So are we talking about the same thing? And this is how we're on the road to sorting this thing out. Let's look at the other possibility, because dreams are wonderful, right? Except when they're nightmares. So within a nightmare, we become sometimes very fearful. And in fact, this fearfulness can be so strong that it prevents us from going to sleep. Well, what we have to understand is that when the soul takes care of you, and it's your soul, then your soul provides your safety. And so if you entertain this fearfulness, then you're engaging with what are called the gonna-getchas, right? There's always something there that wants to get you. Why? Because they have depleted energy. And if the higher strength feeds the weaker energy, and you are of a higher energy, if you engage with the gonna-getchas, then you start feeding. But if that feeding is not willful or of a giving nature, in fact, it is being forced to be taken, then it's a depletion. So do not engage with the gonna-getchas, and understand the dreams cannot hurt you, neither can ghosts. And ghosts are a kind of energy state. And they're kind of like in between, kind of like a dream. If I may, I would like to bring up an example. A long time ago, there was a priest, and he wrote in a popular newspaper an article about religions. And we talked about religiosity a few weeks ago, and so you'll understand if you listen to that. So his discussion in the column had to do with other religions. And of course, he was North American, so he talked about Christianity and this comparison with Muslim religions. And he sort of crossed a line in his mind, but he felt that he could, he could do that without any conflict. And then that night he had a dream. And in that dream, he dreamt that all of these Muslims were chasing him. And as they were catching up to him and they were ready to surround him, he broke up out of that dream, and he broke up into a cold sweat. And he was afraid that they were going to kill him. So my point is that a dream cannot hurt you. So was that dream a reality. Well, it was his reality. And so what it displayed was that his inside belief was actually that he was upsetting some souls. And the truth is, he was upsetting some souls because they were angry with him. So if he believed that he was making them angry, and if he believed that they were angry, and if he believed that they were going to get him, then that was his nightmare. And if that was the belief, then that was part of his physical reality. Why is that significant? Let's sort it out. Let's go on another topic. People talk about out-of-body experiences. So we're going to talk a lot about this later on. But one of the things that I would like to mention, what is the difference between an out-of-body experience and a sleep state? So the thing is that when you look in yourself in the mirror, you see a reflection of you. So that's your internal view. But when you are out of your body and you turn around and you look at yourself, then you're seeing yourself the way everybody else sees you, which is the external view. And this becomes really telling based on how you part your hair, because the first thing you'll notice is that your part is on the other side. And then another way to understand this is to see that, we think that we are symmetrical, but we're not, we're asymmetrical. So these are all clues to differentiate between what we call an out-of-body experience and a sleep state. So sleep state is an out-of-body experience, but it is connected with a springy connection that allows you to extend into a higher energy level, kind of like a transcendence. Actually, it is a transcendence. You transfer to a higher energy level. And then when you're done your business, you recoil back into your body. And so one of the things that you try and do always is to make some kind of resolution. And most of us physically like to do that at New Year's. And what's even funnier than that is that we like to break them. But the whole purpose of having resolutions is to overcome our impairments. And one of the benefits of having this resolved is an enhancement. Is it a physical enhancement? Is it a soul enhancement? What is the byproduct? The byproduct is the restoration of the vitality. What kind of vitality? Well, there's physical vitality, there's emotional vitality, and there is also a soul vitality. But did we say which soul? So the soul that we're talking about has something to do with spirits, you see, because one of the things that we do in our life is we make life harder for ourselves. And this is another crazy thing. Oh, one thing that I forgot, I guess, and even I smoked for a while, and I've gave that up in 1985, and I don't miss it at all. And when I quit smoking, a pack of cigarettes was $2, and today it's over $13. So I'm quite glad that I quit smoking for that alone. but it wasn't helping my spirit any. Other things, like alcohol, that doesn't help your spirit. And it's no wonder they call it a spirit. Drugs, of course, various kinds of drugs like recreational drugs. And then sometimes you combine drugs and alcohol or other things. And so, maybe you go into some kind of spiritual trance, like in South America, and maybe you get into a dance, which you call the macumba. And what you're basically doing is supplanting your spirit for another spirit and engaging with it. But, if you're not careful, then that spirit will take over the domination of your spirit. And that may require an exorcism. And I don't know if you've ever been to an exorcism, but I have. And I'll tell you, it is, it is quite the experience. Quite the experience. And what was so funny, and I won't go into all the details, but I watched an exorcism and I seen the spirit leave. And I frankly had to duck because it came out like a shotgun. And I had to duck to allow it to, and it just went right through the ceiling and right out of the house, and it was gone. And the result was amazing. Amazing. And I was so happy. And, we had a chance to talk about that, a few months later. And we all remember that time, except for the person who had the exorcism. They didn't remember. They had no idea. Wow. So they must have been unconscious. And the consciousness was that malevolent spirit. So by exercising that malevolent spirit, that was the consciousness that left. And so it allowed the unconscious spirit, which was his spirit, to then come into the consciousness. But he had no memory of the prior case. Oh, okay. So exorcism is different from excommunication, you see, and this is what we talked about in the religiosity. When you excommunicate someone, then you basically throw them out of the religion. And if that religion has to do with, God and creation and all that stuff, then where do you get excommunicated? So does that mean you have to step off this planet? Well, just a moment, let me slow it down for you. So, and go outside and open the door so that you can get out. So we come to this dilemma, this human dilemma. Do we have heaven in space the way we're taught? Or do we have heaven on earth, which, I'm biased. I think earth is absolutely a wonderful place. Or do we have hell on earth? Well, we have some very bad places on earth, no doubt. And do we have hell in space? So if we look at our being, we have our physicality, and we have an opportunity through free will to, let's say, for argument's sake, do bad or do good. Well, that is not an earth domain versus space domain question. That is a your domain question. That is a your domain question between your physicality and your spirit. And so the connection is that the do good part and the do bad part is lobbying for your heart. And this is a continuous basis. And so what happens when the do bad part dominates your heart? then there is a feedback loop. And so does that override the heart? In other words, does that discriminate against the do-good part? And so we have a disconnect. And there's a reason for that, you see, because the do-good part is connected to something else. And the do-good part wants to connect to the heart. And the feedback from the heart comes back to the do-good part. So there's a connection. So we have the fight, if you will, the tug of war, if you will, between heaven and hell is within you. And so one side has a connection, has a disconnection. So when we talk about soul travel, and we say, you know, our man's universe is just that little tiny red dot in the bottom right-hand corner. That's our world. It's tiny, but it's not perfect. And we are on that. But that is our knowledge. The rest of the universe is so vast. And this is the knowledge that we need to go to. And so when we're learning about the plasma science and we see that there's a possibility for soul travel, is this what we mean? Is this possible? Why can we not get off this little tiny red dot with respect to our physicality? And it has to do with the Earth domain and the space domain. And the space domain does not take kindly to hooliganism, irresponsibility. Where's the connection? The connection is in our spirit. And that spirit and the travel of the spirit is quite limited to our domain here. So when we're communicating with our dream state, we're not communicating with our soul. We're communicating with our spirit. Let's discuss this. Transformation. Transformation is a part of transmutation. So the soul transmutation takes on a transformation into our spirit. So let's say, here's what's happening when we sleep. Our soul leaves our body, but remains connected to the body. And the body remains in the physicality. What happens in a coma? Well, the soul leaves the body, but the body is not brain dead, but brain disconnected. So the body is still alive. So there still is a connection. So the soul is connected to the body. So kind of like the sleep state, except that the coma goes beyond a day, whereas the sleep state, you go to sleep, say in the evening, you wake up in the morning, and roughly 1/3 of your day, whereas a coma may take an indefinite period of time. But what about death? What is death? Well, death is a total disconnect from your body. So your body's left behind, and there's no spring attached. There's no coil to recoil. So another kind of transmutation is what we call transportation. And this transportation is our earth, and we're connected to this earth. And that's how we got here. But now, through the plasma science, we find that we're also connected to space. So we are able to leave the earth and remain connected to the body. Or let's rephrase that. We can take the body with us. If we can take the soul of the man and the soul of the body and the body into space, then what does that say about birth? Something to think about. Let's sort this out. Have you ever woken up in the morning and you're just not feeling yourself? You're just out of alignment. You go, you spill the coffee, you put the wrong shoes on, your hair's a mess. You're just not you. You're out of alignment, you see, because your soul has come back into your body after the sleep. But for some reason, it has not, it hasn't kind of gone in. It's like, you put some shoes on and the heel the back of the shoe kind of flips over and you just can't get your shoe in properly. It just doesn't fit properly. You have to fight with the shoe to get your foot in. Well, so the ideal thing is to take a nap, allowing your soul to leave your body, and then allowing your soul to come back in and realign itself. And you say, hey, you know what? That extra 20 minutes really made a difference for me. And so you get back into your normal you. So who's in charge of you and your body? It's the soul of the body. So when we look at the vision enhancement unit, which the Keshe Foundation has made a gift to the US military, allowing them to use these units for PTSD recovery, trauma and stress. There's an interaction with the soul. So these vision enhancement units, the question I have, is it a soul enhancement or a spirit enhancement? And I think you all know the answer. In other words, if you take that nap to reorganize yourself, to resort yourself out, there is an assembly within your body, and that is your physicality, the soul of the body, and the soul of the man. And it all is done quite neatly. And if it's done properly, then you look for that assemblage point, as is referred in the books of Don Juan teachings. And this restores your vitality because they're all working together, right? This is a balanced condition. This is your Magrav condition. Your Magrav condition is a balance of the magnetical gravitational field forces coming into the balance. And so in our teachings, we have to not only take the scientific knowledge, but we also have to take the spiritual knowledge. And then we have to put those two together, add them together. And you'll find that 1 and 1 is more than 2. And so this is the principle of manifestation. We take the matter-gen manifestation and bring it into our physicality. And we see it's the same thing, converting light into the soul. These are all relationships. And these relationships are most profound in our DNA. And we see that there's a relationship between the RNA and the DNA. And we see that there's a relationship between all the amino acids and in the structure of the DNA. So there's a sequence. There's a sequence between what we call the matter-gen plasma state and the matter state physical state. And we know that there is a plasma state because we can sense it. So we know that some state dominates, and the dominant state in our society has been what we call the physical state. But we now have a different point of view, different opportunities, understanding the common denominator, not only in our arrival in the earth domain, but in where we've come from and where we're going to in the space domain. But we have some difficulties. There's a connection, there's something wrong. And so we ask, maybe we need to build more bridges. Maybe we need to build two bridges, a bridge of our physicality and a bridge of our soul. Well, maybe. So let's look at what happens in the vertical enhancement unit. And the vertical enhancement unit is an excellent unit that can enhance your emotional and physical vitality, but it can also do transmission. So when we looked at crossing the bridge, the physicality can go in the enhancement unit, and somehow we want to get to the other enhancement unit. But we cannot do that in the physical state. We have to transcend into another energy state. And so we transcend into our spirit soul, which is the soul of the body. But you never go alone. You go with the soul of the band as well. And there is a prerequisite. This bridge is the bridge of peace. And so when you get to the other side, you've transcended into the soul of man, and then you transmutate into the soul of the body, and you transform into the transportation vehicle of the soul of the man. And so you can do this and in the earth domain. So what we're talking about when we talk about the plasma science, attraction and repulsion are the two basic forces. And we need to repeat this. And we need to bring it into the context to understand that there's always a creation. And even though there's a creation where we elevate and there's a creation when we decay, it is always creation. So it is a creation from a Magrav condition. So there's always a plus magnetical or a plus gravitational. It's a direction of flow, and it's a two-way street. So you emit what you are, and you emit to everyone, but you only absorb what you need, and you absorb what you want, especially if you're very skillful. So the ray creation we see, it comes from the single neutron, and it creates a proton-electron marriage. And in that process, it also creates a PM tick. So we have the source of the creation, which is the PM tick, and we have the product of the creation, which is the atom. And we have the transition, which is the neutron. And that goes both ways. So let's understand that natural decay is not decomposition. All it is the direction of flow. So we have a natural creation, in an enhanced position, and we have a natural creation in the trend towards a physical manifestation. And this is not a commentary on the good or the badness of it. It's just the way energy flows all over the universe. So when we look at the magnetical residue, whether it's being attracted or repelled, all depends on the point of view, the gravitational magnetical point of view, the convergence of energy or the divergence of energy. And we all are part of this independent variable. And how can you be independent in an interdependent universe? Wonderfully. It's the way the universe works. It's benevolent. It's copious. It's rich. And the cups of life are only the start. And we need to teach all the new people about the cups of life because they're representative of everything that we are in construction with. So when we look at the one cup and we see that we start with a physical zinc plate and a physical copper coil, and then we nano-coated one copper coil, we created a magnetical gravitational field. All right, so now we've created more. And this is more important now than ever because we have a second cup that does the same thing, but we made a change with the copper plate and we have a magnetical and gravitational field. So when we look at the two cups together, that relationship, one is emotional and one is physical. And if we're using it for the pandemic, keep them 1 meter apart because these fields cannot see the physicality. You could say that they go into a dream state, a state of suspended animation, an altered state, but a natural state, a universal state. Okay, so when we're done with that, we can put the cups together and create the same thing, a magnetical gravitational relationship, and we can draw in the missing ingredient. So each cup has a soul. So let me repeat. Each cup has a magnetic field and a soul. Which soul is this? You take the 3 cups together, and together collectively they create a gravitational field and a magnetical field and a soul. You're never alone. And wherever you go, you have inertia because you have to interact with the environment. And so the cup of inertia is there. And it creates a magnetical field and a gravitational field, right? And then interacting with what environment? Your environment today is the earth domain. So the soul of the earth has an affinity. And so the cup of the earth represents that affinity, and it gives you another magnetical gravitational field. So all of these fields are working together. And you have an excellent representation in the Kesh ceramic cups. As a physical being, you can't tell the difference between the construction of a teacup or a Kesh ceramic cup. But plasmatically, there's a world of difference because the ceramic cups are infused with the GANs, which is working with the ubiquitous universal fields of plasma. And so you find that these cups are incorporating all the things that you need to increase, restore the vitality of the magnetical fields, the gravitational fields, and the soul, the combination. So the reason we've had to cross the bridge is because when we look at our basic science and we've seen all the elements, the problem with these elements is that they're all elementary, right? We are much more complex. So we understand that the sum of the parts is greater than the sum of the parts. And so there's the details in the knowing, or there's just knowing the details. We need to connect. So when we look at the periodic table of elements, we've taken certain elements and put them on the right-hand side in this picture. And then we see, well, there's a left side and a right side. But the thing is, it's continuous. It continues in a circle, but it's not just a circle, it's a coil. And we find at the threshold is the copper and the zinc, the copper being physical, the zinc being emotional. And then on the right-hand side, we see other things. So we went through with more terminology about what is one of the differences between the physicality and the plasma state. And so there's a connection. And I offered carbogen as one of those to differentiate between carbon that's on the periodic table of elements, because carbon is physical. And so I put a proposal to add this to our terminology. And we start with carbogen as part of the matter gen, which is part of the plasma gen. And I asked the knowledge seekers to adopt this, because when we look at the combination of all the elements, they are generated from the combinations. They are not elementary. They're the elemental ingredients in the components of us. So COHN, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, is actually in a plasmatic state. And the environment, the sodium, potassium, manganese, and magnesium and calcium is part of our environment. And then our existence is emotional and physical here in this earth domain, and the connection to it is with the iron. And all of this represents energy in motion. And energy in motion has a charge, and that charge has a gradient. But there is also a steepness to that charge. So you have a gradient charge. And so rate of change is the factor. And the factor, the bridge of that factor is the amino acid. And the rate of change affects the lifespan. And so there's an intermediary, and that is the dream state. But that dream state is the energy of the spirit. And that spirit is where our indomitable spirit lies. And especially, you know what? Can't even spell spirit. How good is that? There. We fixed the problem. We have the technology. So if we understand that energy packs are in motion and we can't see them, and yet we experience them every night when we go have a dream, but we don't understand our dreams because we don't understand how to sort them out. So when we look at the GANs, we have to understand that we are GANs. We have the GANs, and GANs is in a plasma state, but it's physically manifested in the environment in this earth domain. And we have, going from the periodic table of elements, begin the periodic table of molecules and ganses. So we have CO2, ZNO2, and CuO. And these are all part of the ganses, which are represented in the 5-cup system that we call the stacker unit. But we've introduced a new unit, which is the cup of the universe. And now, instead of having these stacker units all done individually, we have them all done collectively. And so there's something about this cup of universe that has an organization, but it takes into account an independent variable. So that independent variable is us. So it's not represented on the physical inventory. So we took a physical inventory and we've seen all the components there. And then we took physical connections. Well, they're not part of the thing there. We haven't included the physical connections yet. We've taken into account different environments and the chemical nature of them, but you know, all we've done is we've taken a chemical inventory. So we have not taken a plasma inventory. In other words, we have the kit, but we don't have the music, okay? So we know there are low notes and high notes and all sorts of other things and rules, but we need to play the music. So this is the point. We have to understand which side is the physical. The physical is on the leeward side. We are at the watershed point where we're looking for that missing ingredient. And so funny things happen in our physics, and that is now being explained by the plasma physics. And the point is that the old science is out of range with the new science. And there's a reason for it, is because the old science is in the post-amino acid stage, and we're going into the pre-amino acid stage. And the post-amino acid stage has a progression from the simple and unstable to the complex and stable. But look at the universe. The universe is very well organized and very well stable. Okay, so what we're talking about is not the Earth-centric domain or the space-centric domain. We are talking about the you-centric domain. Okay, so we are at the watershed. We have to know that we're going on the other side. We are going into the plasma state and understanding the plasma state because we are there. We know we're there because we dream about it every night. We know that. So there's a man-made reality and there's a plasma reality, and we're at the watershed, right? So we all like to watch the movies and solve mysteries, and it's always why this and why that. Well, why is the answer, not the question. You see, the lack of evidence is the evidence. So what are we seeing in the cup of life? We created something physically, and look at all the things that we got. The CO2 gas, the calcium gas, the zinc gas, the copper gas, and the amino acid, and the water. Which came first? The amino acid. The amino acid came first. And so we see in the cup of the universe, when all of these things are coming together, before anything gets hooked up, there has to be some kind of soul coming to here. And so we find that in the cup of the universe, when we bring the ganses together, we provide a home for the soul where the left side of the brain meets with the right side of the brain and creates its first transmutation. And that is a manifestation from the principal matter. The principal matter gives us our soul manifestation dimension, where we bring in the matter state, the dark matter and the antimatter, and they come together. However, what we're looking at is the cross section of a PM tick, where it has the magnetical, the gravitational, and the soul. Collectively, this is a magnetical dimension and is looking for a gravitational dimension to create the Magrav condition. And that is your dark mass That is the mass that you can't see. It's in the pre-amino acid state. And so the difference in the pre-amino acid state with the watershed being the GANS mass is the watershed between the pre-amino acid and the post-amino acid. And we see the representation of that when we have a dream. Our dream state is in our pre-amino acid state because the dream state prepares us for the future, organizes things for the future, resolves issues that we have, because life is for learning, and we all learn at a different rate. We all teach at a different rate, and we all change at a different rate. And so the dream state is one of the things that prepares us so that when we cross over into the awake state, then we have this transitory field strength that allows us to position ourselves between here and there, wherever that is. And that is the plasma interaction. All things work in combination. And so we see this infinity loop, but there's something wrong with it. It's only in 2 dimensions. You have to understand that if the higher feeds the weaker, then there has to be a repositioning, because the magnetical is doing pushing and pulling, and the gravitational likewise is doing pushing and pulling. So there has to be a balanced condition. And is this balanced condition fixed? No, it can't be. It can't be. It's dynamic. And plus, there's a residue. So this is all dynamic. And so now we have a different meaning of the new atomic mass. Say that the neutron mass on the periodic table of elements, obviously we know includes the proton mass and the electron mass, but it also includes the mass of the PM ticks, and it also includes the mass of the matter gen, antimatter, and dark matter. The totality is achieved through the energy level, balance, and positioning. Now, did we say that the mass is different? We didn't, and that needs to be discussed down the road. It's a matter for us to understand at this point in time that the principal matter comes from the PM ticks as an energy pack and comes together with the convergence of the principal matter and the transition matter into a matter jet, which involves our plasma reality. And then we interact with the earth through inertia, and we create another Magrav condition, which is the gravitational position of our physicality on this planet. So now, we understand that when we want to get back to nature, we are nature. There's no getting back. It's a matter of awareness. Excuse me 1 second. People ask you, and they give you almost 35 seconds. What's plasma? Tell them it's a kind of energy state. But now you know that it also is an energy state in the dream state. And now you know that you can transcend the limitations of science. And you also know that it's very important. All you have to do is look at the current events. And we're part of it. So there's a dream state and there's an awake state. And the thing about the dream state is it is intimately connected to our physicality. It is also intimately connected to our soul. Yes, it's the intermediary between our soul and our physicality. It is a connection. And we know that because we can't leave without our physicality, but we can resolve issues. So now we have an opportunity that we can take our physicality with us. We have choices how we go. So it puts a whole new meaning on manifestation. It's a perception of the stacker reality, isn't it? Or the universal cup reality. Either way, two fields come together to form another. Any formation of is that manifestation. That manifestation is based on the plasma feeding. So when you go to sleep, the body needs to be re-energized, and the soul leaves in the dream state for a feeding and then comes back. So you have your non-tangible and tangible manifestation and non-visible and visible manifestation, and you have your plasmatic or physical manifestation, and you have your dark matter and light matter manifestation. So there is a plasma reality and there is a physical reality. This reality, whether it's physical or emotional, is a form artifact of energy in motion. So energy in motion can manifest. And so this is now, we have to understand, what does it mean to be a dreamer? And in many ways, they say, you know, are you awoke or are you drinking the Kool-Aid? So the reality is, if men pretend to talk about peace, but don't work to achieve peace, they are not dreamers. They're living in an altered reality. And an altered reality is man-made structure. What we're talking about is a universal structure where we have vertical life and horizontal life, and the essence of that creation comes from the matter gen state. And we have a representation of the stacker unit, which sees a combination of that with our brain, which is a transformation from our soul. And our soul is full of ideas, and our heart is full of wishes and courage and love. And these are all plasma manifestations, and we know they exist. And so when we see the relationship, how higher energies feed the lower energies, it's unconditional and it's all inclusive, right? So when we see the representation of the stacker unit, we see that in our spine, but our spine is in our body. So when we look at the feeding units, we see the plasma feeding units. If you're going into the space domain, how can you take care of the physical domain, your domain? How can you take care of your domain in the space domain the way you take care of your domain in the earth domain? And so we see that it isn't that it's man-made, it's the role of man and how we apply our knowledge. And so we've introduced the vertical enhancement units and the horizontal enhancement units, and we need that. And we are connected to things that are limiting us on this planet. It is this energy binding, which comes from these self-serving attitudes, which are amplified through the double dealing and deceitfulness. It involves the use and abuse on this planet. And the missing ingredient is morality. And we're going to talk about that more in the future. Because you see, there are consequences. The cross you double cross is your eternal burden. And that is because there is a code of ethics in the universe. And in order for us to engage with that on a daily basis, we have to dream about this. But that doesn't mean we are connected. We could very easily be disconnected. And so you find that is a challenge. The universe provides the ultimate challenge. And so that is our challenge, to mature, to understand that morality, compassion, and courage are part of the ethos of the universe, because the universe is based on creation. That is the universal ethos. It's based on creation. And so we find that the transmutation of us is between the soul of the body and the physical body. And there is a connection. And we'll talk about that more, just so that you see the relationship. There is a universal cup, and that is within us, but that is limiting us. We need to go through a transmutation and understand that there is more. There's more in what we need, what we are. There's more in what we need to know. And now we've crossed the bridge, and we see that if we can remember our dreams and understand that our dreams are our reality, and as it's a preparation for our physical reality, and then understand that that is just an intermediary. That is not the destination. That is just an intermediary between our transformation and our transportation. That's all it is. Okay, we have a long way to go. And we need to do that by enlisting our trust. And how can you trust something that is proven to be untrustworthy? Well, as we perfect our skills in the art of dreaming, and we know that when you look in the universe, you see by connection that it's well organized and benevolent and peaceful. So when we look at our total dynamic field strength, we see that it is all encompassing. And so we see that, you know what? The soul of the body is within the soul of the man. It depends on the environment. And so we can change the environment. That is, we can go from the man-made state to the dream-made state. We can go from the earth domain to the space domain. Okay, these are skills that we have. But there are some limitations. And so we need a little assistance. So Keshe Foundation has brought us a dream ship that allows us to do this. Not only to dream in the earth state, but to dream in the space domain. And so we're looking forward to what is going to be happening in many centers where we have the combination of the various enhancement units. And we see that plasma energy goes around, comes around. And it doesn't matter which environment you're in, which is why the Universal Council and Earth in the logo. The Universal Council has a field strength in the logo, and that field strength is all encompassing. And our field strength is our field strength, and it is independent. But our field strength is the indomitable spirit representing our patriotism. And what has to change is that every country has a patriot. We are all universal patriots. We are universal patriots of the earth. there are universal space patriots. So if we want to engage, this is the plasma science delivered by the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute into the public domain. And in order for us to entertain this new experience, the World Peace Treaty is paramount, because it brings peace and harmony to our planet as it does to the universe. And it also facilitates the physical and emotional harmony and vitality of us as a humanity. And that is the truth. And as truth seekers, can we become patriotic difference makers? Well, if we're going to go into the new space age, the plasma science needs to be delivered in exchange for peace on Earth. Thank you all for giving me the time to make this presentation. I hope you enjoyed the trip.
Thank you very much, Alex. There's a tremendous amount of knowledge that you've brought today, and try to understand. I know Raquel and I felt the same way. We try hard, but it looks like we will never reach such knowledge. And I know that's not true. Just for the dreaming, for example, I know Mr. Keshe asked Mernez if she's had a dream in the last couple of days, and she said she had. And he said, well, then you're already traveling with your soul to different positions. And there's so many other aspects of this that will come together for every one of us as we continue to review the knowledge. Let's see, Jackie, I'm going to mute you. Jackie may want to come in here. I know he was at work earlier. Hopefully he's still not there, but he is filling in for others. So yes, Mark, yes, go ahead. What would you say to someone who seems that this knowledge is so daunting and that there's so much? I know when I first came to the foundation, all I could see was like a ball of tangled wires on the table in front of me. I mean, you know, not really wires, but I was just saying, how do I connect all this together? It looked like such a daunting task.
Yeah, so in your statement, I'm assuming a question. And what I tried to describe today is to sort this out. And what I've been trying to do for the last 2 months is also sort it out to understand the difference between the plasma and the physicality. In terms of the sleep state, so we understand that there are different energy levels in the sleep state. The only sleep state that we can remember seems to be this dream state, which seems to be just moments, maybe minutes or seconds or moments before we wake up. So in other words, we are having difficulty remembering our dreams from the really, really deep states. And I'm talking in general terms. The dreams that most of us refer to are these dreams that we have just prior to waking up. And some of these dreams are quite long, but actually it only seems to be long, where actually it only just takes a few instances, because the dream state is in a higher energy state, you see. But it's adjoining to our physicality, right? It's the transition between going from a dream state into our from our dream state, sleep state, into our awake state, physical state, right? And so we can remember that. And the point that I've been trying to make, and I'll just re-emphasize right now, that adjoining state is the state that looks after your body, and that is the soul of the body. The soul of the body cannot go too far because it's connected to the body, but the soul of the man can. So if we are going to maintain that connection, then it has to be connected, the soul of the man to the soul of the body to the physicality. There has to be a complete connection. And where too many of us in our self-serving ways are disconnected, you see. Is that helping?
We'll have to ask Raquel. You know, at one point, Mr. Kesh said that the soul of the man has to observe what the soul or the physicality is doing all day long. And we know there is a division. I mean, you can daydream and go into different dimensions during the day, but for the most part, it's the soul of physicality who's in charge, and the soul of the man has to observe. And he mentioned at one point you could ask the soul of the man if it would take along the soul of physicality into the dream. I think the physicality needs rest, the actual physicality, but the soul of physicality probably doesn't sleep much or hardly at all. I think the brain is always working. So it is possible for us to ask the soul of the man to take the soul of physicality with it on its journeys, let's say. There is a distinct division between the day and the night. And as I said, the physicality sort of has the day, and now at night, it's the soul of the man's time to play. I don't know if anyone has actually done any of that, but is it just a vague memory that you're recalling? I'd like to see the whole enchilada, let's say, where the soul goes and what it does. And I know it has to project back to us, even though it's interacting with other souls. And you wouldn't know that unless it projected the soul of your mother or your child or perhaps a relative. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know that. It would just be interacting with other souls. So has anyone asked their soul of the man to take along the soul of physicality when it does go on these journeys? Or maybe
Yes.
Hold it, we have a response, Steph? Or-
Yes, Steph, I write it in the chat right now. There's a difference between lucid dreaming and astral journey. And I never had an astral journey. That means that I can go out of my body and see my body, how he was telling us. But lucid dreaming is a state when you, in the dream, suddenly knew that you are in a dream, and then you can, yeah, with your body you can have everything. You can jump out of you can fly, you can see your family, whatever you want, and you know that you are dreaming. And I don't know if you know this, the difference, or have somebody else a lucid dream, because it's a difference. And maybe Alex can explain if you know what's the difference between lucid dreaming and yeah, astral journey. Because in a lucid dream, you can do everything and you feel your body.
What kind of dreaming? You said lucid dreaming, and what
Lucid dreaming.
what was the other one you mentioned?
The-
Or there was
he
a word
told-
I'm missing.
Yeah, Alex told us about astral journey, right? Astral journey or out of body experience. So it's called out of body experience. But there's a difference between out of body experience and lucid dreaming. I don't know another word. It's called lucid dreaming. Means that you suddenly feel in a dream that you are dreaming. And then you can do everything what you want because you know you are dreaming. And you feel your body, you can have whatever, you can have sex, you can jump out of whatever a house, you can fly and you can meet your parents, whatever you want. And sometimes, also this I have often in my childhood, and I remembered a few years ago, and I'm training that. And since there I have 5 times, not very often, but immerhin, also 5 times I have this lucid dreaming again, and I saw my mother and I visited whatever. And once I hear a voice I was with my friends together, I meet them, and suddenly there was a voice. Here is Michael, 11 o'clock. And I was thinking, hey, I'm in a dream, I'm here, what does the voice mean? And I thought, I must remember when I wake up. And I was waking up and I remember my lucid dream, right? And the voice. And I thought, what does it mean? It comes out of nowhere. And 2 days later, I get a email from my, it's like something like a therapist, radionic therapist. Yeah. And he said, at 11 o'clock, I will start your program. Greetings, Michael. And I dreamed it 2 days before. And yeah.
Yes, I know we've been clued in to the idea of the dream state being the reality and the physicality being the illusion. And how do we bridge these two together? I mean, many of us have woken up from a dream and we've thought how real that was real until, of course, you woke up.
Oh, that's a difference.
Yeah.
You know in the dream that you are dreaming. You can do everything what you want. You know that you are dreaming and not waking up and you remember your dream. That's that's maybe normal. But in the dream, you can do whatever you want. And when you wake up, you know that what you have done there, because in the dream, you have fully consciousness.
If I may comment?
Please.
Yeah.
This lucid dreaming is not different from astral projection. It is astral projection. The lucid dreaming is different from the dream state. So the lucid dreaming is more appropriate as an out-of-body experience, whereas the dream state is an in-body experience. And you can tell because when you look at yourself, do you see yourself from your inner viewpoint or your external viewpoint, as I mentioned. So, and what you're talking about is absolutely perfectly. It describes how the higher energy feeds the lower energy. So you have developed an additional skill, and you really need to continue to cultivate that. But we need to know that you have to do that with trust, because the trust comes from the universe.
Yeah, I have the trust because I remember.
Well, that's why you're successful.
Yeah, I told you, I remember a few years ago because I read this this word lucid dreaming, and I remember, hey, in my childhood I have always lucid dreaming, and I remember and I think, oh, that was really great. And then I was looking up in Google, what can I do to, there are some things you can do every day. You do the same stuff, and then maybe in the dream you remember the same stuff and you do it. Then you remember, and it happens 5 times, but it's not very often because I really do it since 3 years. I'm trying to do all this stuff to be in a lucid dream, but I just have 5 times. But 5 times is more than better. But some people can do it every day. And a journey, an out-of-body journey too. There are some special things you can do to train it.
Well, one of the things you can definitely do is to not have it happen. And that comes through the disconnect when we start to violate the universal rules. And then this is where too many of us have this problem, so that this has been building up over the many centuries on this planet. And as Mr. Kesh pointed out on Thursday, there actually is a deficiency. So that deficiency may be a deficiency, or maybe an abuse of a deficiency. See, just because you have a weakness doesn't mean I need to take advantage of it. You know, I have a choice. I can either assist you with your weakness to strengthen you, or I can take advantage of your weakness. Well, this is the problem we have on this planet. So those who prey on others are actually, shall we say, stealing energy. They don't have enough energy to go on this journey that you talk about. So this is the realization that we need to achieve physical and emotional harmony. You have to work with the universe.
Okay, thank you.
Can I jump in here? 1 second.
Yes, you
Don't
can.
get wet.
Thank you.
I
You
should.
know, sometimes we do things automatically without awareing about what we are doing. So if you go to bed, what is the first thing that's coming to your mind? You're going to bed to sleep. So next time you go to bed, put in your awareness, you are going to travel. You are going to any part you would like. You choose where you want to go. You are not going to sleep. Awareness, which open the door for you. Appreciation, admire. But if you don't do that, it's happened and the body translated to the knowledge he have. Like, you know, when you go to the ancient drawings, and in that time, that drawings, it's a language, but for you it's a drawing because you don't have the knowledge to decipher these words. It's the same thing. So from today, when you go to sleep, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to travel. I'm going to learn. I'm going to see, you know. And as Mr. Kat said, when you go in that position, ask to see your soul. But before that, you need to be just. You need to be honest. You do not abuse, and it will happen. Not from the first time, because this need practice. And then you will see the reality of what the soul doing.
Yes, that's one of the exercises I do to travel, but that's a good question that I have to ask.
I have a question for Jalal too.
Yes, please.
Why you need to go to bed to go to the journey? You can do any time.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but you know, because this is the place which is really it is the gate. But once you know it, then you can do it every time, wherever you want. You know,
Yes.
like you want to drink water. Normally, you pick up the glass and you go and you fill it with water. This is a process. But once you take the water without the glass, it is, you know, it's a processing. You know, now you have a new processing. So it's open up a door. It's not necessary you go to this traveling with the sleep, but because we are doing it automatically, that's why I'm saying we choose to do it automatically and without noticing what's really happened. So now you choose to travel by this way because, you know, all your body is fixed like this.
Yes.
So this is a step of learning, and then once you learn that, you can do it every second.
Yes. And Mr. Cash not only talking about that, I think so he's talking about something else too. I have those kinds of experience before. When I was little, that time was different. But like 6-7 years ago, suddenly I found different way. That is, the first time it happened, I told you, I think so in here, I told you before. At the morning time, I woke up and I took my daughter to the school and come back home. So my husband is sleeping still in the bed, his bed. So I took the pillow and I want to lay down near him. So I put the pillow near him, and then I just tried to sleep, but I didn't lay down. My head is not touching the pillow yet, but my eyes is closed. And suddenly I out of my body. It feel like I went to inside my brain, something like a screen, 3 screen open, and suddenly I went inside one screen, and then I saw in the cooking, it looked like cooking skill. Chinese people, Chinese teacher is teaching, and like 7-8 students around him, and I'm looking from near their knee. I'm not looking their whole body from their level, but looking lower level. So the Chinese guy is talking to the student. I saw his lip is moving. The student is talking, but I didn't hear what they are talking. So, and then I came back, and I was so scared. I just jumped to the bed and running all around my house. What is just happened? What is just happened? Where did I go? Am I getting crazy? Those kinds of 3 days, I just different level. And then after that, few days later again happened. So I know there is another way to travel, not in the lucid dream or those kinds of stuff. And another way you can look, that is like sometimes my husband now is not happening that much. He used to watch TV. I have a TV in my bedroom. So he used to watch TV and talking to me. So sometimes I'm laying down near him or just sitting. I'm hearing what TV is happening, what he's saying. I'm sometimes answering his question, but my eyes is closed. So sometimes, did you see the Tarzan movie before all time? There is a binocular. What is that? Is one? Yeah, binocular, like one pipe binocular, big one, all days.
Telescope.
Yeah, like those one. And then I feel I'm entering inside those kinds of stuff. It's pipe, like something pipe like. So I'm sitting, I'm talking to my husband, and I can see other place that way. But I'm seeing different place, different world, but I'm sitting near him, talking to him, or laying down nearby him. There is a lot of way to go. You can I can explain that much, but there is a lot of way to go. And most of time you can go when you are relaxed. That's why all the time I told in your this show, always relax and relax and relax. Because of that, when I get that level of relax, different level of relax, I can go. So I think so everybody can.
And what about the daydream? I know we were given an
That
example.
is different thing. Daydream is nothing near to this. When we are little, go to school and then we daydream, but that is different thing. But this one, total traveling. I think so, Mr. Cash talking about this.
Well,
What is
just to
happening?
give you the example he gave us, or a close proximity of it, he said the student was in class to listening to the teacher
Yeah,
and then he heard the children outside playing ball. And he wanted to be outside playing ball with the children. So he kept one ear listening to the teacher, but at the
Mhm.
same time, he was outside playing ball. And I think we've all done that.
that is different thing.
Okay.
That is different thing. I used to do. And most of time I live like a two world. Uh, I used to do those kinds of things when I was little. And my dream was different when I was little. But now this travel is different kinds of travel, totally different.
But it is not one door. It is about 12 door, which is you can
Yes.
enter.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm talking about that. There is not one kind. There is a different level and different kinds of travel.
Right, but if you're driving the car and you're kind of bored driving the car and you're thinking, well, I got another half an hour to go, and you're thinking about, oh, gee, maybe a nice presentation or flowers you're going to do or something else you're going to do, you're actually doing both at the same time, as I see it.
Yeah, that is true. That
Yeah,
is true too.
you might be thinking of making, a cake while you're driving, but you're actually experiencing that in the sort of a daydream. You're fully conscious.
No,
Yeah,
there is mistaken again. I didn't prepare for anything. I just sometimes this happened, just happened, and that is different. Not those kinds of thing you were talking
Sure.
about.
definitely.
I think so. A lot of us too. I don't know. Sometimes a few guys talk about the travel, want to know a lot of stuff. I think they did experience a little bit. I feel maybe they are finding the answer too. I'm looking to what is going on. Maybe someday Mr. Kesh will explain more or will know more. That's it.
Well, one of the things that touched me in the 406 was this idea of putting the Magravs in the prison. Now, you might say that the physicality is a dream state, but when you're in jail and you're in that environment, it's not much of a dream state. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous people, there are gangs, there's all kinds of things going on there. But by putting in the Magravs, it apparently brought everybody more into balance. And I know that's a major concern for the administration, because when the prisoners are out of balance, it's definitely a threat to the correction officers. Many times they'll act out, they'll become violent, they're very angry. So this was a beautiful touch that the knowledge seeker had sent to Mr. Kesh about putting these into prisons. And apparently it was noticed by the administration how things came more into balance. I'm sure it wasn't a perfect condition, but it was noticeable. So that is a beautiful environment to create, because these prisons, it can be a very, very rough way when you have, especially many of them are overcrowded. They were built for 1,000 people and they have 2,000 people in there. So not only are the conditions crowded, and especially when someone doesn't have any money, let's say in their commissary, and they can't use the phone and they can't buy things, they really get aggressive towards usually the corrections officers or another inmate, let's say. So this idea of putting the Magravs into the prisons is a very beautiful touch. And hopefully we'll learn more in the near future about this.
Yeah, it is balancing something. We have, I think so, some deficiency. It is covering or balancing something. It is really interesting, yeah.
Anyone else like to make a comment or perhaps share some knowledge with us? I don't think the soul of physicality sleeps, as well as the soul of the man probably doesn't sleep either. It's just the physicality that actually sleeps. But that's just my understanding or my thinking about it, actually. Why would a soul need sleep?
Soul never sleep.
Interesting what you said, Alex, about the Siamese fish there, about going into sort of a state, what did you call that? Suspended animation? But then when the female comes by, he must feel the fields? Is that what's going on? And his physicality wakes up?
Well, it's cloudy, extremely cloudy water, right? It's muddy water. So how can he see?
Right. Stefania has put in the chat, will be great to have this knowledge seeker come to the testimonials workshop and talk about the Magravs in the prison. I agree, because there are millions of people incarcerated in the United States. Well, I don't know what the actual number is, but, and then including other places around the world. I've seen some of the Brazilian prisons on television, and even water was being metered out. So it was a really desperate situation there. And I'm sure it happens here as well. But hopefully, once we start improving with some of these systems, as we've been told, even the worst person, the worst offender in prison will become a productive member of society. And hopefully the judges will start sentencing people to processing in the unit as an alternative to keep people in boxes and so on. Because we don't understand the emotional imbalance and so on that's going on. And I know Ed had put that into his video for the horizontal unit as well.
Yeah, Mark, so you can see that the correction has to come from the top down.
Yeah, on the soul level, no question. And that's why delivering all these knowledges and all this technology, unless we elevate the soul of the man within a period of time, 100 years or less or more, we'll go back to the same procedure, even with all the advanced technology that could be and will be shown by the Keshe Foundation. So that's where this elevation of the soul becomes the primary focus, I do believe. And at one time, Mr. Keshe says, I hope we never create, I thought, a enlightenment machine. Now, in the more recent workshops, he's talking about stepping into and around these systems and just being in the fields to become more enlightened. I know Jalal and I sort of joked about that. He said, God forbid if we ever create an enlightenment system or a enlightenment machine. Maybe I misheard it though. And we said, oh, don't worry, Mr. Kashyap. That won't happen. And now it appears to be happening.
I think the overriding goal here is to facilitate the rate of change, because the effect is going to be so profound that there will be mass unemployment, and that's going to be very detrimental to the society. So we have to have a simultaneously mass employment. There, you know, it's one thing to create a change. It's another thing to, you know, or should we say, to do it in a coordinated fashion. So too many times the way people like to make change is they drop a bomb, and yeah, that'll change things very quickly. So there you have no choice. But you know, if you're doing it on a peaceful basis, then you do have a choice. So the one thing that you really don't want to do, and you shouldn't have to do, is to take someone into the new space age kicking and screaming. You're going to have a better life. No, I don't want that. You know, like a petulant little child, just like, well, wait a second. You know, this is better. No, I don't want better. This is a kind of perverted thinking, and it comes from unresolved issues. And this is one of the reasons we do go into a dream state. So we know that the resolution of these issues has been provided for. So if we can accept that through our dreaming, then, and understand that life is for learning, and understand that the way the universe works is the way life is supposed to work. And that is the difference. This is what I wanted to show today, the difference between the universe made and the man-made. But the man-made shouldn't have negative consequences, shouldn't have a negative connotation, because we are made in the image of the Creator. So, you know, if you look at it from the point of view of the Creator, nothing has been created bad. So, you know, what's our problem? Well, because we have the same capability, but we don't share the same, I'm just going to say plainly, responsibility. But we do, but we don't take it seriously enough. And so that kind of ends up appearing as if it's a flaw. You know, man's failings and weaknesses. But it's all part of the learning exercise as well. But we keep refusing to learn because there are others that we have to take into account. So I know one of the things in my neighborhood, you know, we have no trouble with, you know, this lockdown and social distancing. You know, the farther we can get away from the hooligans, the better. But, you know, you come to the point where, you know, there's just nowhere else to go. This is our planet. We're all on this together. So, you know, why are we in the business of getting away from? What we need to be is in the business of getting together and understanding that, you know, we have all come here for a specific reason, and for the, you know, we came here unconditionally, but we live conditionally. Okay, so something's wrong with that program. So how can we change it? And now we have an opportunity to do that. And if physically we are deficient in how we do that, then plasmatically through the peace stone, we can activate that. So at the very least, start improving our conduct. And it is through the improvement of our conduct that it'll resolve our physical issues.
Stefania has put an interesting comment in the chat, and so hasn't Freed. But I normally, I want to go to, normally I ask if anyone's here for the first time, and I just got a message. Hi, Mark. I just got to know about Kesh's work yesterday, and while browsing websites, I stumbled upon the Telegram group and this meeting. I'm feeling a little lost. Would you be able to point me to where I can start learning more about what you're discussing? If I'm saying your name right, would you like to open your mic and tell us where you're from? We're a very friendly family, and perhaps you can share more with us. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and I guess we know how you found the meeting. You were browsing around on different websites, and I stumbled upon the Telegram group and this meeting. Are you still with us, It's IMM.
Yeah,
Right?
hi.
Oh, hello, dear.
I've just come in at, so I think maybe 20
Relax.
minutes ago.
Yeah,
So
just take your time and relax. We're all a big family and a very friendly family.
hi, thanks for having me. And I only just came in about 20 minutes back, so I didn't even come in at the start.
Are you
I'm-
in Australia, perhaps?
Yes, you've guessed it right. I'm in Melbourne. And yeah, it just been through a lot of lockdowns and
And you know, we have a lot of knowledge seekers in and around Australia.
oh, that's oh, that'd be, yeah, that's great to know. If,
I don't know how we can hook you up with them, but perhaps someone else can make a suggestion. We welcome you. I see your dog in the picture. What is his or her name?
oh, he's Gilby.
Gilby.
I yeah, don't really know what else to say and add. I'm just curious about what you all are discussing. And
I think your soul brought you here, actually, brought your physicality in to get introduced and become part of the family.
Are you on Telegram?
yes, I just joined the group.
So you will see this meeting posted on Telegram.
Yeah, that's how I clicked the link and ended up here.
No, but you'll have a copy of this video today. So
Oh,
you'll be able to download that and view it at your own leisure. There
Oh,
are numerous classes, and there is an Australian group.
The library, the Australian library, I think, isn't it?
Yes, is Doug here?
I think Doug is here.
Yeah, I'm here. And just a second, if she goes to Telegram, she will find Kesh Australia and New Zealand group. She will find KF Australia team and Australia and New Zealand plasma group. So there are, I think, 2 or 3, it looks to me.
Oh, right.
Even.
Mr.
So-
Kesh has already posted
Yes,
the link.
I was just going to say, someone
aha.
named Mr. Kesh has put the links,
Yep.
or at least
Yeah.
1 or 2 of the links in there for you. Is that how you say your name,
Yeah, that's right. You got
Oh,
it right.
very nice, very nice.
Thank you. Oh, thanks for the links, and I'll have a look.
And of course, you can go deeper by becoming a private student as well. So you can think about that for future reference. But I'm sure if you find Doug and you find Lisa and Jim and others there, you'll have a definitely beautiful network to work with, and in the same language strength, let's say.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Doug.
Welcome.
We have meetings, but it's very difficult in Australia, as you know, for travel. It's very confusing. Our meetings are up at the top end of New South Wales, and we had one on Saturday. But it is very difficult for people who live anywhere else in this country, in other states, to move. Hopefully that'll all change as all these systems they've put in place, all these control systems are in place, so they will crumble. Hopefully, you know, everybody will get sick and tired of it. That is what we were discussing at our meeting on Saturday. Is that you know, it's just getting to the point where people are just so sick and tired of all the limitations, and they just want to be able to be themselves and go where they wish, whether they are, you know what I mean. You know exactly. I think everybody's in the same boat, just tired of the whole thing. And when that happens, hopefully soon, you know, people like yourself maybe get in the car and drive up through New South Wales and come up, but do contact through those Telegram links, and you know, we can chat, you know, that way at the moment. And you know, you'll find yourself easing into this. It's the fact that you've come along and found, apparently by accident. It's never by accident, Im. It's never. Nothing happens by accident. There's a reason. So anyway, welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you.
So you can save the chat or click on it now and then bookmark it perhaps and go back to it later. The link Mr. Kesh has put in for you.
Thanks for that. That's really helpful.
Thank you for introducing yourself to us, and always feel you're welcome here in any of the meetings. There's many meetings, from the Knowledge Seekers Workshop to the One Planet, One Nation, One Race for World Peace on Tuesday. There's reactor groups and so on and so forth, but we're very well pleased that you found us.
Hey, Mark, I think for her to start is good series. The series called Easy Learning Plasma Science. No, Understanding Plasma Science is a very good beginning.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
You need to find the playlist on YouTube, Understanding Plasma Science.
Was that done by Jim and Lisa?
Yeah, very good for beginners.
Yes, very nice. Yes.
And the other one good is the workshops Mr. Kesh did with the kids workshop.
Oh, okay.
And I want to thank Leanna. There is a kfwiki.org. Thank you, Leanna, for putting that in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Stefania has put in the chat, we could put around the parliaments of any countries. And that's one of the reasons I think Mr. Kesh said he's going to be building these centers of excellence in capital cities. So they'll be very close, but I think the Magravs will be also a powerful touch. Fried has said in the book Zero Limits by Joe Vitale was the example for prison inmates completely transforming through Hawaiian Ho'oponopono as another approach. Fried, could you share more with us about this? Because yes, many prisoners have been isolated from their families, or their families have, you know, sort of abandoned them because they've gotten in so much trouble. I mean, I've seen people stay in jail for months just because no family member would come up with the $50 bail for them because they were so disappointed in the person and didn't want anything to do with them. They gave up hope on them. And so for $50, a person had to stay in jail for months until the case got resolved or whatever. So yes, I think there could be a lot of work done in and around the prisons. Fried, do you want to share about this? I didn't get it. H-O.
Ho'oponopono is the name, and it's a Hawaiian healing method, and it's very simple. You state four short sentences. That is, I love you, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And what you then try, what the one who did work with dangerous inmates, what he did do is incessantly repeat this sentence and learning about the story, the background of the inmates, and that's how it was healed, how they were healed. So by completely delving into what happened, that these inmates came to the prison. While he did that, suddenly less and less aggressiveness was there. So he could heal it by healing himself as being in the shoes of those that he wanted to heal. It's an absolute fascinating way to heal oneself and the environment, any environment.
Marie, I see your mic is open. I can close it for you unless you wanted to say, oh, she did. Thank you. And Stefania, is there any sort of, with the One City, One Center program, would this include, I don't know how people in prison would actually be able to avail themselves of these systems unless they were ordered perhaps by a judge or requested, because once you're incarcerated, they won't let you out per se unless we bring something to the prison. I don't know if any of the Universal Council members that are here, because there is a large population. And of course, when they do get released, many of them are very angry. They haven't gotten into balance. They've been caged up or they've been put in solitary confinement, sometimes for months. And so this would be a beautiful touch, especially for the employees of many of these facilities, let's say correction facilities, or if you could call it a correction. So.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. From where you are, like Mr. Cash said. Yes, I mean, as we know, the guns, they replicate what the body does. We are made of guns. Each one of us is a Magrav. So the Magrav just for, like maybe Mr. Cash would say, it's just for the physical people who need confirmation of things. So as we see the result that we get in the prison by spreading the Magrav, also the story that Fred just told in about this man do it with his soul, because it's also its soul, it's a Magrav. So we have to just continue doing this. And Mr. Cash the video you shared tonight when he talked about the dome, the piece of dome. Even that one, so even that one is a way to change the environment. It's you know, a very lazy one, like for people who wants to change things with less efforts. That definitely, that is the way, because if each one of us has learned how to make the cup of life and teach freely to all his friends and family and people around them, if we all do that, just that, it would be a huge difference that we make at the fields level. So we really can make a big difference when we work united. So that's why it goes under one plan, one city, one project, because it's like a common things that if we all do together, takes very little. And then if we do not have the plasma, now we had a lot of testimonial, a lot of people experience, also university, schools, that now we got so many proof in the last 8 years of how the fields work. So we don't even need the Magrav, we don't even need the cup. We can use our soul, because we are plasma machine. So we can just, so we got many tools so each one of us can do a lot together, and we can do in many ways. I think that this testimonial just reminds us to the power of
Yes.
focusing on the fields. Yeah, and we just keep it doing. We're in the, you know, we finally we feel empowered. We feel that we can make a change, and we can turn things around. It's all in our hands, basically.
So the One City, One Center is a worldwide project that you can donate to the Kesh Foundation. And I don't know, Stefani, if you want to add any more details in there for your city or for other cities. Maybe it wouldn't even be for your own city. You could donate for other places, for example, in Italy or in Africa or even China, I would think. It's a worldwide program, in addition to what the Kesh Foundation, I think, is building directly. And I wasn't sure if that was the Turner Construction Company that's going to build some of these centers, or did you say a Chinese company that was in the process? I figure there's many with the One Belt, One Road program that's been going on for a number of years. They have some very professional building companies there that can turn things called a turnkey operation and get things up and running in a relatively short time. So I wasn't sure. I thought you mentioned Turner Construction, but I may have misheard that and need to hear it again.
But definitely, One City, One Center, it's all of us. It's all of us together. So to get that totality, so it can be done in many ways. So in many ways is as I said, One City, One Center can be just each one of us finding peace in their lives and helping themselves and people around them, you know, simple things like this, or connecting together, having the same wish of peace. No, so now we know how powerful our souls are. So we have to just focus on our intention on one wish, and we choose peace, because with that one it includes everything. With one word, this is what Mr. Kesh was keeping said to us in the Mojan, one word to cover everything. So if you have to wish one thing only and it will come true, which will be this wish? So that was the question, and we work out at the end the word peace was the best one, because we want to include everything, balance of the fields, so no war, abundance, everything. As you know, the vision of Mr. Cash, you can go to look at that. It's explained very well, and so we just one wish, we can make a change. We also at the physical level, we can make the cup. Each one of us can make a cup in their house for very little money and create fields. Don't keep I used to do this mistake where I used to have some plasma water and just keep that one for ages. But lately I understood from listening the workshop that is much better if we just keep and produce it and throw in the earth, lakes, sea, but to really, that is the easy way to change the condition of the environment. And then, so we can do by wish, by connecting together, by making the cup, by, because at the soul level, we know that the soul cannot refuse the fields, and they always balance each other's. So even the people who are gives more trouble, if we just focus on elevate them. So what is different now than before is that now we don't punish anyone. We just elevate everyone. So I was thinking today, you know, I really was thinking, at the end of the day, the only things we have to do, it's help, support one another. And actually, I start to practice a little bit, because unfortunately it's not in my nature. I have to really think of that. And it's actually, I thought, oh my God, if it is the only thing we have to do, it's such a nice things when you help someone who needs support, and for you is not much, but for them is a lot. And you just spend your time on support the people around you, and they feel so happy and grateful. I thought, this is great. If you have to just focus on this, it's not bad. You know, you actually, you do feel energized. You do feel empowered. So we're just not used to focus on those things. I mean, many people, they are just, others maybe it's more difficult, but eventually, you know, it's nice things, and it will bring us to a nice future. So life is not too bad. We have to just keep going.
Thank you, Stefania, for your beautiful work with the Universal Council and for your excellent wishes of the Council. That's allowed us in a way to start receiving some of these systems. I know years ago, Mr. Kesh says, I teach and you show, but now it's almost 180 degrees the opposite. He's showing such advanced systems, and we're going to be partaking in them and doing some of the work as well as replicating some of it. I know they'll be developed as well. They're being delivered, but over time, mankind will also, I think, there'll be some development that we can have inputs, perhaps when we travel around the universe and we interact with some of these other civilizations, or they come here now that they know there's a peaceful condition here and people won't harm or eat them. They may be very willing to share billion-year-old technologies with us and really advance us. So there's so many beautiful things in the work. Thank you, Stefania. It's always great to hear from you. Liana has said, the cup of life is the greatest. So happy we can spread the fields of peace and support our world with this gift of one cup, one life. Also, thank you, Stefania, for sharing and encouraging us all on our path to peace. So beautiful.
Can I ask your help? A knowledge seeker from Brazil. He studied the UFO phenomena for more than 30 years. And last year on his city is happening a lot of this kind of things. And he's in contact with the television channels and journal, newspapers, and they are trying to understand what is going on, and he don't know how to explain. And he asked me for help, and I'm asking you guys if, because he says it's a good opportunity for the Cash Foundation to try to help us to understand what's going on there, because the scientific people, they cannot. And I'm just asking if you guys can help him.
Well, I know Mr. Kesh said those fields around Brazil and South America and in that area are much more amenable to the universal community, let's say, for them to appear. Apparently, the fields in that area are something not that they can't go anywhere, but it appears that the fields in the area are more conducive to attracting them. And again, there's much more to it than I know, but there's something about that particular area that seems to attract them, per se. But not that they can't go anywhere on the planet. Maybe it's just the nature of the people there. Anyone would like to add anything on that? And we're going to see many lights as we hear Raphael play in the Message to Humanity. And some of them are souls and some of them are actually craft coming back. There's a big party going on this planet, and apparently everyone in the universe knows about it except most of the inhabitants of this planet. So you're going to be seeing many lights in the skies, not one or two anymore, but thousands probably.
Because people see where the UFO arrive. I don't know how to say in English, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
Arrive, and the vegetation on the floor, they like bend. They don't break, and they make specific geometrical forms like triangles or circles. And the people from the media, they keep in touch with my friend and they want answers and they are trying to understand, and he don't know how to answer them, you know. And he don't have too much to say because he studied this for a long time, but he not so long on the Cash Foundation, and people cannot understand. The scientific people, they do not understand why something like this happen. And yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. I was trying to find Mr. Cash here to ask him for help because my friend asked me for help. So I pass the ball for you guys. Thank you.
And maybe they're here because they've heard the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is about to be released on this planet, and maybe they want to be processed as well. You know,
and you know they have like horse cars, because people say they hear a lot of noise like thunder and turbines and like machines, and they don't have the science of the state of art technology, you know. Maybe, I don't know if
I
they
think
are
they
from
do.
other place. Maybe they are from underneath the earth,
Hmm. But one,
because strange things happens there. You know,
Yeah.
they take the blood from the animals.
yeah, that could be some
And
sort of
if leave,
operation. Yeah, I don't think they need blood. They can create it.
yeah,
They
I
don't
think
take
they
a
really
life.
don't need.
Yeah, no, that's some sort of probably operation. But it's interesting, you know, Mr. Kesh has said that the people in the UFOs are in the same position as mankind. They're trying to get back to the creator. They're trying to meet the mother. If they wouldn't be in those craft, even though they have a billion years of knowledge ahead of us, if they knew how to fly with their soul. So they're basically in a very similar position, even though their technological advancement far exceeds our knowledge level, but they're still trying to discover their soul and learn how to use it, apparently, as I understand it.
And I think if a man can have an entity can make a spacecraft and travel for millions of light years and come here, I think he understands that he cannot kill, because that's against life. And because sometimes I think it's something from the earth, but it's something very strange. People don't understand, you know.
Yes, there's many operations going on that we're not aware of. I'm sure Mr. Kesh could open it up if he chose to, but I don't know if now is the right time or not.
Yeah. So thank you for the talk.
Yes,
Thank you.
but I know the fields in that area are very amenable to people from the universal community or certain races, let's say, that they find a nice place to be, apparently. and want
Maybe
to go.
they just want to go to very beautiful beaches in South America.
Or maybe see some of the ruins that their ancestors have created, like
Yeah.
Machu Picchu and some of the other ones. There's probably stories along that line. Again, man has had exposure to some of this technology in the past, but apparently like flying carpets and other things, but we have apparently lost it.
You have Phoenician ancient scriptures in Brazil, in a lot of places.
Yes, in the Grand Canyons as well.
Yeah. So I don't want to take all your time. Thank you very much.
You're not. We have plenty of time, although we did want to keep these meetings not so long. But of course, if Mr. Kesh comes in, we can go all night if we need to. So that's not a problem. But I know in Europe, it's probably about 11:30 right now, approaching going on midnight and so on. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but just having respect for others' time and place.
Mark, my only comment to Danilo, hi Danilo, is that I talked about this a few weeks ago, and because of the physical nature of these, or shall we say the physical manifestation of the crop circles, that these are from an earthbound domain, not from a space-bound domain. So that's I don't know firsthand. I'm just connecting the dots.
And wouldn't it make sense that if the creator is learning about his creation, wouldn't the created also be interested in learning more about the beauties of what's been created and observing, perhaps? There are many races or civilizations in the universe, and I think they know this is probably one of the most beautiful places in the matter state in the universe. So I think they would just naturally be attracted to observe and to see what it's like. And we also know that many of us that are walking around on this planet are actually not from here. They've just taken on the clothes of a man and are hiding in the clothes of a man, just having an experience in the matter state. But as far as the craft, I think, yes, they come into the oceans. That was the creation of life. They may even take samples and bring it back into the universe, because the original apparently is much more valuable than it being created in the universe, as I understand it. Meaning the seawater. Would anyone else like to raise a subject or topic or?
Mark, I just wanted to, because I thought about more of what I wanted to say before.
Sure.
So
Please add.
if you imagine your body like universe, because the last workshop, from my understanding, we stimulating to really, so one city, one center is bring you to think about totality. Because we want world peace, so we want the whole world balance the fields. So when you work with the totality, doesn't matter from where you work from. So you can donate. That's why in one city, one center, you can make a donation if you wanted to. You can make a cup if you wanted to. You can obviously find peace. Everything they bring you to peace. But because you work with the totality, doesn't matter which tool you use, it will bring you the same result. And it's different that when you work in for a specific goal, for a specific group, it will take you ages, because you will just change that things, and then you have to change one by one. So that is the trick. The trick is if each one of us start to think more about the totality, and in anything we do during the day, so we think about us and all of us together, that it's the trick. I think to me that it what means one city, one center, and we can do in any shape or form, because we learn now that we are the creator. We are the one who create. Like Mr. Cash said a long time ago, you have to imagine like you got a white paper, and you are drawing into a white paper your reality, so your wish, your vision. So we have to really exercise that totality of thinking, and also the fact that we are into the creator. So we tap into, like the motorway show us last Thursday. You choose, you're driving a car, you can choose which motorway you want it to be. If you want to stay at the physical level, at the soul level, at the universe level, unicos level. So the choice is yours. You can go in any road you want. And then when you have the thought of totality, doesn't even matter which road you take, it will always take you there. So just this, for me, is this one city, one center, is all of us together.
Yes, and we have a few Universal Council members here. Mr. Keshe has been stressing the importance of these 5+1 and 5+2 negotiations, where we have most of the leading governments there, most of the religions are represented there. Could we hear any advice from the Universal Council on how we as knowledge seekers can help that process to achieve the peace that's being looked after? Apparently, these are very critical meetings to go in one direction or perhaps another. Would anyone from the Universal Council like to add anything?
If I can come in, please. The preliminary negotiation starts on 28th of November. We have an instruction to complete by 20th of March. We have overall target to conclude the negotiation by 24th of December. The meetings usually start at about 9 o'clock, and it's a continuous multiple meetings. And what we have suggested, or a point for Universal Council to consider, that all the knowledge seekers around the world from 28th of November, 9 o'clock Central European Time, will praise the soul of the negotiators. These negotiations will have a fundamental operational change for humanity. Keshe Foundation has on standby 48 units of the enhancement vision and what we call the brain to be delivered to Arizona pending the negotiation. These are intellectual right property of Iran, as a guest will be as a gesture of peace to be shipped to Arizona. The situation is very simple. Iran is getting sanctioned for obsolete technology, which all the other nations have. And in a way, we request from the Universal Council, Councilman Old and Keshe Foundation, knowledge seekers to concentrate from 24th of this month. This is where all the groups gather in Vienna to start the preliminary and negotiation starts on 28th. And this is what we request from the Universal Council and the knowledge seekers for the support, elevation of soul of the negotiators to see the way that we can end a lot of things at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe. I just want to take a minute, Mark, just to thank everybody for being here and allowing me to present. And I'm looking forward to carrying on this journey every day from now on till as Mr. Keshe said, is a super important day. And we all need to row in the same direction and bring peace to this planet finally. Thank you all so much for being here at the North American Corona. And as you can see, international, which includes Australia. So you all have a great day. Over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you. And he did say from around the 24th of November to start elevating the soul of the negotiators. And the negotiators are apparently from most countries and most religions. I don't know how the religions are fixing into this, but there is some importance on that aspect of it too. And we need to elevate their souls as well, because we know the predicament that they have kept man in for so long on this planet, not allowing us to really discover our soul and cashing us out in a way. So we can elevate their souls as well, as they're part of this entire process. And apparently the vision and emotional brain enhancement systems are hinging on this in a way. I don't know exactly how, so let's all keep that in our, go ahead. Somebody want to say something?
The purpose, the reason that Arizona is on a hold is transfer of technology. Once these systems arrive in US government under territorial action can claim on them. And the Keshe Foundation technology becomes assets of the US government. And this will not be moved till we get assurances in negotiations that we work towards peace in all directions. And the hinging is not hinging. We have withheld shipping anywhere, any unit as part of the intellectual rights. And these are laws and bylaws which within the American structure comes into operation. And we are holding to this position. Transfer of this technology to the United States creates millions of new jobs, literally. And when we say one city, one center, Keshe Foundation has already organized establishment of 1,000 centers around the world. And we are not looking for partners. We are not looking for somebody to finance us. We finance it through the Keshe Foundation structure and operation, and we have already started with the Keshe Foundation China, the process with the China construction company. There is a mystery or a mythism that people never understood why One Belt, One Road was initiated by President Xi. And that was to keep the construction companies and technologies developed by them in business. Chinese finished their operation, literally building their cities and their country through rapid industrial revolution of construction by early 2000, 2005. And the country was facing a massive unemployment in construction, even though a lot were not employed, because they built whatever they wanted to build, and they developed the country over 30 years. Now, President Xi, by producing the One Belt, One Road, allowed these construction companies to expand and keep their employees. And 90% of the One Belt, One Road has been to keep the construction companies in China and employment keep going. And this is why One Belt, One Road everywhere is into construction. And they have facilities in every nation. And Keshe Foundation, we've been in a long negotiation with China Construction for over 3 years. We just need to ask them to start. And this has started. We did directly through instructions to CPC and National Security with China Construction. They already have tested some of our material in their offices. We know what we're going to get. And literally is building, if you are in Europe, you understand the supermarket structure of the Lidl and Aldi and standard supermarkets, is copycatting, replicating the same structure around the world. When you walk into the enhancement center in Arizona or in Lagos or in Sydney, they all look exactly the same. We have secured the finances for building these 1,000 units, and the work has already started. We have a number of meetings with our factories in China, and they start the process of building the enhancement units and the facilities for them. We gave nearly 3 years chance to the knowledge seekers and others to come in. We sold a number of them, but it wasn't the way we wanted it. Now we own, we operate all the knowledge, what we call wellness centers around the world. And you will see them popping out from, I presume, March, April, in different part of the world, until we reach the 1,000. And how we decide the 1,000, it more or less goes back to Universal Council decisions and partially how we see political, geopolitical moves. We still have problems with what we call strategically putting things into US. But on the other hand, we have no problem to equip our, what we call Arizona Center ready for part of the beast production. We have a jetliner standby to ship the first load into Arizona second week of December. we've been told we don't deliver because we were waiting for peace negotiations, and now we are part of it. We implemented technology in exchange for peace. And this is how we set up, and this is how we proceed. There is a question just come up in respect to the agriculture. Keshe Foundation, China and Iran have started moving on this direction. Iran Keshe Foundation has received full collaboration agreements. We have signed agreements with the most advanced agricultural university in Iran. And we start literally publishing papers through this university. And Beijing Agricultural University, we already have agreements. March of next year, we start in a massive project in Mongolia, which we were involved before. Now CPC has forwarded us to that position. It's something like $400 million of project, which is literally based on the basis of the Keshe Foundation technology. And at the same time, we have to work with different understanding of the technology in agriculture. But certification of the technology has already started with Iran leading university some 3 weeks ago. They observed our harvesting for 2 terms, and they consider it as a very advanced stage, and we have appointed people who work with the university for the next spring, what we call seeding and forward on. But as I said in the meeting with the management of the Keshe Foundation team, is that as now we are investing in 4 universities around the world, starting from next week, we do not want to go out for the others to publish and deliver the confirmation of the agricultural and other side. We will produce research and development in our own universities, and we publish. If there are the scientists who want to test it, they don't need to test it in their universities. They join the Keshe Foundation, keeping their position as a professor in the Keshe Foundation, and do test and development inside, that it becomes part of the Keshe Foundation technology, not somebody, if he wants to publish a paper, we have a journal, we can publish, we are a scientific journal registered, so we can do everything ourselves. The game of the Keshe Foundation as of about a month ago has changed. We don't go out looking for people to do things for us. We set it up to do it ourselves for others to join in to do it with us. We waited a long time for what we call cleanup operation of the cities from what we call pollution. And we saw how much we got from pole to post. As we have informed the Iranian authorities, and we start negotiation as of about 10 days ago. And now we have informed the Chinese government of the same. We build centers in Tehran, which capture up to 1,000 tons of CO2 across Tehran over 3 months, or maybe more. And with that, just before we come on teaching, we were discussing 150,000 household units, as I said in the teaching, will be given to citizens of Tehran to operate these in their homes and generate money for the family. We give them, they operate it, we buy back the products from them, and then we use it in what we need across the new purposes. The same will be done in China. We will give the same to Beijing. 150,000, the poorest families will be given a unit. It's just like looking after a milking cow. And milk it and put it out, and the milk tank will come and collect CO2. You're going back into the history in the same way, but this time not only we clean, we pay for it. We are not waiting for anyone to finance us. The finances are all in position and we start. Actually, we have started. As you've seen before, we gave a chance to the governments. Governments didn't do it. We gave it to knowledge seekers. Knowledge seekers watched it, so we do it ourselves, and we have started doing it ourselves. Building of the universities, building of the centers for CO2, building of the enhancement centers, building of the agricultural centers, all financed by the Keshe Foundation. We have brought in a massive budget, and we carried as one nation, one planet, one race. We have become an alternative government, but as one nation for the whole planet. And we have raised the finances for this purpose.
Mr. Kesh, I was wondering, you're saying 1,000 tons a year, perhaps more or less, out of some of these centers, Beijing, Tehran, London, New York, maybe LA, probably Mexico City, and so on. When they collect these, and I understand the CO2 will be turned into carbon credits so that more can be reinvested, what actually happens to the CO2 once it is collected? Is it distributed to farms, or what is, where does it actually go? Or what's done with it?
First of all, at the moment, carbon credits are around about $60 a ton. Keshe Foundation, through agreement, will receive 50% of it for development and other sites and positions. We did this to stop all these, what we hear nonsense about CO2, as we saw in Glasgow, who agrees to do what. We set the pattern, but there is a very big concern from us, and that is unbalancing the nature by extracting too much. So extracting the right amount, it becomes part of us, part of our work. It's not just extracting CO2. We will have more problems if it's done too much. We're spreading the extraction of the CO2 across the city in a large and a smaller scale. It's a formidable task for the first 10 years, but we have received the green light in Tehran to go ahead, and we will start investing. You will hear it. The order for the production of the systems is already gone to Tehran. What we do with CO2 are a number of ways we can use it. We have paid for it, so it's obvious how much a family can collect. If they collect a ton a year, they get half of what we get, and the other half goes into operational collection and the staff and the rest of it. So a family, if we can manage the system, they should collect about 10 liters of gas a day. We've done a full measurement on it. That gives them 3,600 liters per year. It is about 3.5 tons. Some of it go for expenses of costs. The others, they get money for it to move out of poverty. And then we move those units from house to house to bring that to everyone. The CO2 will be used in many, many different directions and diversions. A lot of it will be sprayed on the land, contaminated the lands. A lot of it will be used in agriculture to bring balance into the system. A lot of it will be used in oceans to reintroducing energies back into the oceans that will bring Earth back to life. Alex, in his teaching, brought a beautiful subject up, maybe for the first time some of you could understand. We have brought and moved from chemistry of physicality to chemistry of energy. And CO2s are energy sources. Once we change them from the state of matter into energy and gas. All of it will be used primarily for, in a way, converting the CO2 into energy, which we will see how it will change the position and condition. We capture the CO2 from the air, but we can again spray the same CO2 as energy over the same city to become the source of change and elevation of the soul of the man. It becomes the source of energy for food. When CO2 is in the atmosphere, is in a state of matter. When we capture it as a gas, it's a state of energy. And in a very clever way, we feed it back. We spray the cities with it in a specific way that will change a lot of things in conjunction with mixture of other gases, because CO2 is connection to the soul of the man, connection to the physicality of the man. So we are not worried how to use it. We are sure that other part of the nations and planet will ask they want to as well. Then we have to bring a ration into how much we extract so we don't create a new disbalance. We have to understand the technology, and the teachings like what we see with Alex bring some of those forward to open a new dimension for knowledge seekers to understand the application. And this is important for many of us to not to worry to what we capture, to be rejoicing in capturing these elements. As a matter state, we can change them to energy states that can be used perfectly. Every 40 liters of gas in liquid state becomes 1 kilogram of gas in a solid state, in the matter, what you call it, gas state dry. And when you spray the dust of this over agricultural land, it stays for at least 3 to 5 years. There's no need for fertilizers. There's no need for pesticide. There is no need for worrying about what the next step is, because you look at it as a dust on the ground, but don't forget its energy. It changes the whole atmosphere above the ground. Balance, energy field transfer, harvest increases by 3 to 10 times in some cases. We know this, we already done it in China, and that's why, as you know, we have received a 2 billion euro financing by the Chinese government for just expanding our factories across China. We come a long way, but now it's what is getting delivered and what is to be done. And we are not relying on knowledge seekers anymore. We're relying on teaching all our staff we employ to become knowledge seekers. We used to take a staff if you were knowledge seekers. The instruction has gone out even in a meeting with the management of Chinese. Anyone who gets a job at any cash foundations across the world have to go through 1 month of teaching, and not there just to pass it, is to understand it. And if you feel somebody is just there for the money of it, not understand the ethos and the work, the job is moved on. And as of last week, this is a decision which is going around all the cash foundations. We need to employ, but we teach them our ethos first, and why we are doing it, the reason we are doing it, and the knowledge how to do it. Then we employ them. And we don't have no exams. We look for the understanding, and then people somewhere down the line will match it. A lot of things will change, you will see. by building of the first University of the Keshe Foundation in next, most probably you will see it within the next 6 weeks. Building of the second university in Tehran, the same. Building of the university in Beijing, we have requested from Chinese government to allow the Keshe Foundation Space Institute to be open as a university. And as we already said, Arizona will become in the next few days part of the Keshe Foundation Space Institute University structure. We went to government, we had no joy, we came to knowledge seekers, limited work. In a way, we started back and we do it ourselves. Do you know the old story of the little bird in the farm? And the children came and said to the father, the farmer said, the family, we heard the farmer saying with his family and the friends that tomorrow we start harvesting. Father, we better move. He said, don't worry, nothing will happen. The next day came and nothing happened. 2 or 3 days later, the children came and said, Father, the farmer we heard with his son saying that he's going to start with them to start harvesting. He said, there is no worries. 2 or 3 days later, the children said the farmer was telling his wife tomorrow he's going to start harvesting. He said it's time to move. And now we came to that point. We started to move. We don't rely on no one, and Keshe Foundation will develop it in its own way, and we have secured every finance for it. Knowledge seekers or non-knowledge seekers will come, and we'll see how we develop it. We take the knowledge to the governments, we deliver it with technology, we finance it, and all they need to do is just to enjoy the benefit of it. And then we carry the same. Time of waiting for knowledge seekers to come up, maybe they do something, is not over, but now it's more concentrated through the Keshe Foundation operation itself. And Keshe Foundation is all of us, not just me and a few others.
I was thinking of the morale of the employees at some of these various facilities will be much more elevated than your standard, let's say, auto worker or someone else who may not be quite happy with the conditions and the pay or the boss and so on. And therefore they don't produce as much, or they may steal a few things to think they're being, if they're being undercompensated, well, I'll do it this way, or I'll work
We
less hard.
still have it. We still have it in Keshe Foundation.
What?
We still have it in our operation around the Keshe Foundation. The same thing. For man to change, it takes a long time. Abuse of facilities, abuse of everything. I'll give you an example. When we opened the Trani University, we had lecture room on one side and we had the lab on the other side of the building. Brand new building, some of you have been there. We had a tray of something like 200 green screwdrivers. These screwdrivers were cross-order, what do you call it, no more, single head. You couldn't find these screwdrivers anywhere because they were brought as part of my previous work when the East and West opened up. We had millions of these, tens of thousands of these. And we found some of it and we brought it to Trani to be there for research when we do the research. After 3-4 months when we finish, I think we walked away with a handful of it. Knowledge seekers still take, maybe a souvenir, but no one took a permission. And this goes right across the knowledge seekers and Keshe Foundation the same. They don't steal, they think it's Keshe Foundation and it belongs to us, and they help themselves with it. Changing the ethos will take a long time. And what I say is just understanding. We hope man changes. And that's what I said, it takes a long time to change a man from killing and changing. And the process is to understand it. And people like Jalal, like Alex, and others are trying to open this in a direction that more common understanding of the knowledge is available. I have a small message for all the knowledge seekers, especially North America, Canada, and others. Some of you have been making donations to Keshe Foundation USA through PayPal. This account will close as of next week. Any donation has to be paid to the Keshe Foundation head office, to the operations which we have, which is on the Keshe Foundation website. Some of you have done this for years through to the acquisition of the Keshe Foundation USA by Magrav. This account, as part of the operation, will be closed down. And if you were paying money into the USA Magrav account as donation, that account will be closed as well. Any donation has to go to the Keshe Foundation, what we call the head office in Holland, to the way which is already mentioned in the website of the Keshe Foundation.
I just got a message on the Telegram. Aloha, everyone. Is there an update on the Magrav's power plasma generator? Are they releasing it? I'm getting a lot of inquiries about purchasing it. Thank you. Thanks for any info you can provide.
They will not be released at least till after the peace talks negotiations with Iran 5+1 is completed. This technology will change a lot. We already use the technology in the enhancement units. But again, it's a disruptive technology, and it's already has been used by Keshe Foundation. We use it in the enhancement unit, and a new Magrav system has been developed, which will be on the production line of the Keshe Foundation in Iran. The Magrav system from Iran is very much different than the other Magrav systems that are operational. And then the next phase for them is to become generators. There is a lot riding on the peace talks in Vienna. A lot, more than you can imagine. You mentioned what's got to do with religions. A lot of governments who sit in negotiating table come from different backgrounds of their faith and belief and operation. And the members are there, and most of them believe first in the religion, then in negotiation. Iran, China. We have the European community, we have the British, and we have the Russians. So we have Americans which represent the state of Israel as a Jewish state. So America cannot make any decision if Jewish lobby does not allow it. So in a way, we are dealing one side political and one side religious. And we have to thread a very fine line that all work in the same direction. When you elevate the soul of the, what we call negotiators, is not just their soul, those who come with a belief of it. You'll find the Iranians will go for 5 times prayer during the sessions. The Jews within negotiations will take the Saturdays, Friday nights off to observe Sabbath. When the Christians of negotiation go to the temple on Sundays, they call it whatever church or whatever they believe. Then you understand 5 + 1 is not just a peace talk, it's a merger of all the religions at the same time.
Yes.
Mark,
Go, John.
Mr. Cash, what will happen there in Austria is from Monday when they're requiring the jab on everybody on the street and everywhere else?
We are waiting for, we have received the government, what we call ruling. From tomorrow, all the shops are open and you can only be on the street if you're shopping. So there's no stoppage in this. The work is open, the shops. The people can go and shop. You have to have certificate of injections. You have to have, or have a certificate that you've been infected, or for a time being, for office, in the offices and the factories, as long as our staff carry a PCR certificate, which lasts 3 days, every 3 days they have to be tested. And the situation is that our factories will run, our research centers will go, and our exhibition center will be manned to the best of what we can. We expect that within the next 10 days, the ruling will be no injection, no going out, but that infringes the human rights. But we have to wait and see. We have what they call total lockdown, but nobody has been stopped from going to work. But in a way, the way we see it is just a show at the moment, because everything that goes on, you're on the street, they can't stop you. If they tell you where you're going, I'm going shopping. So there is no reason, as long as you have a PCR test on the street. They cannot stop you in the supermarkets if you don't have an injection or the certificate. You cannot make people hungry, and you cannot stop them wearing clothes. And this is what now is everywhere, with France, with Germany, with Italy, with Holland. Switzerland has gone the same way, but we have to see. The time when they say you have no injection, you cannot be on the street, and that's the infringement of human rights, and I think you'll get a big problem. But this is what it is. We are not the only country. Holland is already moving in other states. Germany is the same, and it has affected us, but we can cope. You got to realize, people who started this, if you go back to the articles, they said they are prepared to finance this for 20 years till they get their way. They can finance all the nation's losses for 20 years and then they pay them afterwards. It's very much what we saw with the Second World War. They brought all the nations to their knees, and then the nations paid back for 40, 50 years after the war for what it is. This is a silent war. We have to live with it, we see. The only way out of it is the rapid development of the space technology to give man a chance above 80 kilometers. And this is what you're getting June of next year.
Would anyone else like to add any thoughts or perhaps ask a question at this point? And I'm going to play something that was created in Australia for the last 6 minutes before we play the final disclaimer. So I hope you'll stay with us. It's a very beautiful presentation that Lisa and Jim have put together. It's about 6 minutes long. Anyone else would like to come forward? We want to thank Mr. Kesh for coming in and sharing some of the details of what's going on in the background with the technology and more importantly with the negotiations. Apparently these are very critical and getting what we want to get out of this, which is a benefit for everyone. So let's elevate the souls of the negotiators and all the others that are involved, all the souls involved, whichever position they may occupy at these meetings. Gee, with everybody leaving on Friday and then Saturday and then Sunday, it's interesting how much negotiating can they do. But with elevated souls, I think they can accomplish everything and get things wrapped up rather quickly. So we're going to all play a part in that, just the way you play a part in the spraying and connecting of these beautiful centers that are about to be put on the earth. Anyone else? Again, it's about 20 past midnight in Europe, and we do want to respect everyone's family and time and so on. Anything else from anyone else, please?
Mr. Kesh, anything is happening near future in the sun?
Yes, it will shine.
It is shining now,
It will
but
be the same, no difference.
no difference.
As far as depends, the structure does not, the structure working of the solar system does not change unless something essentially happens inside the sun or within outside. But as far as we can see, there is nothing. We are not the future tellers. We are a scientific organization and we don't see anything.
When is the soul harvesting time?
You decide, and you're only responsible for your own soul.
Massive soul?
That's your understanding. Nobody harvests souls. I don't know where these comments come from. As I said I explained before, and I explained to some religious leaders, especially in the past few days, past few weeks, the understanding of heaven and hell is not what you were afraid of, or whatever is the position state of your soul at the time of separation of the physicality and the soul of physicality and the soul of the man. So we, in a way, day of judgment is every day, as I said, when you act Not collectively, everybody will be there and we harvest salt. Who harvests salt? Are human beings bunch of fields of animals that they slaughter at the same time and they harvest their meat? We are individuals, we are created individually, and we take our position in the next step of life according to our conduct. Your heaven, hell, and day of judgment is the day when the separation of your soul and physicality comes. Not waiting for everybody to line up and that's it, we harvest. As I said to a priest in Vatican, we don't have a soul combined harvester.
We don't have soul, we have frequency.
What do you mean?
No, I know we don't die. I feel like that. Yeah. I'm confused sometimes. A lot of people saying a lot of stuff make me sometimes.
No, it's a very simple. It's we are part of a cycle of changes of the fields of the universe. The energy which is a cell of your body, most probably in the cycle of the universe and universe, has been part of another object, part of another being. It's been part of the sun, definitely. That's where we came from. Your transformation of the energy to matter state and what we call energy packages become life. And when we die, we go back again from energy, maybe to another state of matter or another state of energy. Life did not start with man and life will not end with man. We are just a piece of time in the cycle of the fields of the universe. The rest is what we make for ourselves to give ourselves importance.
Thank you.
Well, if you look at the life of even an apple grows on a tree as a matter state. It drops on the ground and it becomes energy to the same tree again for the next cycle. It's the same for the life in the universe. There's no difference. It depends which part of the state we collect that energy or we observe it. As an apple on a tree, the tree, all the energies when the apple is on the ground and to you rots, but the way it transfers its energy to the ground, so it goes back to the tree and so it becomes energy to other things. And this is the truth about life. We just make it that we are important because then we have a reason to do what we do. They're just part of another cycle of transformation and transfer of energies, magnetic fields, and from one to another. You're a vapor, nobody can see you. You're a mist, nobody can see you. You're in the room. If I heat up the room, you see it as a moist. If I chill the room, you become water on the window. But in fact, it's the same water. Depending on the state of condition, we manifest ourselves in different ways and directions. And that's the essence of creation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Is there anything else we need to discuss at this point? Or you feel it's been on your mind or you wanted to bring forward, but you've hesitated? Very well. Alex, I want to thank you. I want to thank all the knowledge seekers and of course, Mr. Kesh for joining us today. Ed, I hope you'll include this in your presentation that you cut out. Yes, did somebody open their mic? Did they want to say something?
No, it was just me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Alex, and thank you, Jalal, and all the knowledge seekers. We're all working together. We all, just like a clock, everyone could be a little gear or a little plasma in there making the time stay on time. And if we didn't have the one part, the other part wouldn't function as well either, and the time wouldn't be able to be told. So one is just as important as the other, as we know. Can the little toe say to the hand, we don't need you, or vice versa? And we've seen those examples before. So we're all part of a beautiful bouquet that even though there's a few thorns and issues or whatever, it's still a beautiful bouquet, and becoming more beautiful as the souls become more elevated. Again, this knowledge is so vast and so immense that I don't begin to say I understand the totality. But with the new systems coming on board, I think we're going to have a glimpse, at least, or maybe much more than a glimpse, into the reality and the totality of the knowledge. So thank you all for being a part of this meeting today, and hopefully we see you again. Thank you, Im, for coming in, and we're glad your soul has led you our way. Anyone want to add anything else? Please feel free now. Very well, then I'll play this 6-minute clip. We'll play the final disclaimer, and then once this meeting has been rendered, we will put it in the Telegram, North American Telegram, and then anyone can take it. I know it'll be on YouTube. Ed will take out Mr. Kesh's part, and everyone can take part in listening and more of the details, let's say. Okay, thank you all. See you soon.
Would play the recording, the part of the last week's teaching, and then we'll build on it. We'll go in more detail. Have we got the tape ready to go?
Yes, it's called A New Tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you very much.